Great. Good evening, everyone. This is the Town of Eastchester Planning Board meeting of Thursday, June 26, 2025. If everyone would rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all for coming. We have a full agenda tonight, so we're going to get right to business. We'll take attendance here. I'll tell you what we're addressing tonight, and then we'll go straight to the applications. So Mr. Phil Nemisek.
Present.
Lauren Goodrich.
Present.
Jim Bonanno is present. Joseph Rubino.
Present.
Michael Fortuno.
Present.
Great, thank you. We're just going to quickly approve the minutes, subject to Phil's comments and corrections. So I make a motion to approve the minutes for May 22nd, 2025 Planning Board.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great, thank you. The applications we're doing tonight are numerous. The first one is 25-24 LT Eastchester, 750 White Plains Road. The second is same location, 25-28 Equinox. Third is 25-29 LT Eastchester Cava Restaurant. The fourth is 25-30 LT Eastchester Tate Bakery. Next application is 25-10 11 Maple. New business in front of us is application 2509 80 Park Ave. Next one is 25-38 Siwanoy Country Club. The next is 25-2710 Joyce, followed by 2539 305 White Plains Road. And last is 25-40 Crema Cafe, 470 White Plains Road. There's some adjournments that were made. The first one is 23-15 for Sal's Market and Pizzeria at 751 White Plains Road. The next adjournment is 21-1750 Tuckahoe. The next adjournment is 367 White Plains Road, followed by 25-36 Early Bird Cafe at 367 White Plains Road. And the last adjournment is 25-37 Sweat 440, 367 White Plains Road. So let's get started. The first application, are we going to do them? Well, you want to start, it's you, and tell us how we're going to proceed.
Right, and just a reminder that we opened a joint public hearing on applications 25, 24, 25, 28, 25, 29, and 25, 30, since they all relate to the same property. So we have one public hearing for those four applications.
Right. There you are.
Good evening. I'm Bob Davis of Singleton Davis and Singleton. We're the attorneys for LT Eastchester LLC, which is the applicant and the owner of 750 White Plains Road, formerly occupied, as you know, by Lord and Taylor. As you also know, we appeared before the board on May 22nd to seek your board's site plan and architectural approval for certain exterior renovations and site improvements, which were recommended for approval by the ARB on May 1st. And we also are seeking special permits for 3 new tenants, as you know. We discussed the application in great detail at that meeting, as well as in our various submissions before and after that meeting. And since the meeting, we have submitted responses to the latest planning and engineering comments, including an updated analysis with respect to the sewer use and capacity. So tonight, no member of the public having appeared or spoken at the last meeting, which is certainly a rarity in my experience, we ask that you do tonight reopen and close the public hearing and then consider and take action upon the subject resolutions. I believe you've received draft resolutions for your consideration. So our team, including Jerry Birmingham of Sachs Global and Diego Villarreal from JMC, are here with me in case you have any additional questions. But First, there's just one important item I would like to discuss and give you our viewpoint on with respect to the draft resolutions. It cuts across all of the resolutions, but primarily Equinox, which we believe has been treated differently in that regard from the other new tenants, and we don't believe that has a significant basis for doing so in our view. In short, we would respectfully submit that the reference sewer capacity mitigation condition should be, as it properly is in your draft resolution for the other new tenants, a condition of the issuance of a certificate of occupancy for Equinox and not a condition of its building permit. As the planning memo points out in comment number 5, the projected additional flow rate with the new tenant uses will not take place and exceed the baseline established in the 2021 approval unless and until the new tenant spaces are actually in use and being occupied. The projected flow rates, which have been conservatively projected by our engineers and are likely to be overstated, will barely exceed the baseline we're using from 2021 in any event. And of course, it should be noted, as you know, that this is not an entirely new impact on the sewer system, as Lord & Taylor operated the 215,000 square foot premises since 1947, so we're really talking about some incremental flow. The town will be fully protected by conditioning the issuance of the certificate of occupancy to Equinox on the completion of the required mitigation, just like with the other tenants, and that would afford the condition, in our view, again, a rational basis as the law requires. Conversely, conditioning the issuance of the building permit for Equinox on the prior completion of the mitigation, which is not required or even addressed in the 2021 resolution or the condition therein regarding the sewage capacity, would serve no basis with respect to the town's interest in ensuring that the sewer capacity not be exceeded without mitigation. As outlined by the town engineer's latest memo, that mitigation process could well be quite lengthy, and it can and should take place, therefore, along with the construction of the tenant spaces. However, putting that condition on the issuance of Equinox's building permit does have the probability to cause great detriment to the applicant with respect to the harmful effect that any substantial building permit delay will have on its obligations with this particular tenant, and that could result not only in unnecessary financial loss, but in the actual loss of this tenancy, which would be a blow to the applicant for sure, and to the town of moving the Equinox use, which is in a difficult location, as you now know, with respect to parking and otherwise, into a much more favorable one with an even better facility for the use of the town's citizens. So in short, there's no harm to the town whatsoever that we can concern in conditioning the issuance of the certificate of occupancy for Equinox on the completion of the mitigation, but there is certainly great harm to the applicant in not doing so and conditioning the building permit on the mitigation. And that's really in no one's interest, we would submit. I'd like to have Mr. Birmingham from Saks take you through the practical implications of this condition, which might not be readily known to you. And I think you'll see that what we're talking about is a very important matter to the applicant, but not so much to the town that's going to have the mitigation performed in any event before this use even takes place. Mr. Birmingham? Thank you.
I testified before, Gerald Birmingham, Saks Global, owners of the property. As I understand, the process has potentially laid out if we don't make this change to the resolution, and I'll defer to the engineers, but I believe what would be required to be accomplished before we could obtain a building permit would be the completion of whatever mitigation is determined. Is that correct?
before a building permit. The way the condition is drafted, let me, if I could just back up for one moment. So the original approval for the site plan for the conversion of Lord & Taylor from a single-tenant occupancy building to a multiple-tenant occupancy building included a condition that said once the total sewer flow rates exceeded 21,500 gallons per day, the applicant would be required to mitigate on a 3-to-1 ratio through inflow and infiltration improvements that delta. With the projections that we received for this application, it looks like with the proposed 5 new tenants, we will exceed that baseline, the 21,500 gallons per day, with the gym being the largest contributor to that additional flow. So the resolution that was prepared, kind of building from that original condition, provides that a building permit won't be issued for the gym until the sewer mitigation is completed, and certificates of occupancy won't be issued for the other tenants that are proposed as a part of this application until that work is completed. It wouldn't affect White Plains Hospital or Saks, which are ongoing, just the 5 new tenants. And the thinking behind conditioning the building permit for the gym is that it's really important that that mitigation get completed. This is a very sensitive sewer shed, and it's not a good set of facts for the town to have a use fully built but unready to be occupied because extensive sewer mitigation needs to be done. And that was the reasoning behind conditioning it on the building permit. We've reviewed that with the town's consulting engineer, the highway superintendent, and the building inspector, and they all kind of agree to that timing. So that's just the background and where the conditions fall as drafted.
Thank you. And that's how I understood it. So moving forward under that scenario, we would meet with the engineers in the town and come up with an agreed-upon guesstimate of what this usage would become. And then we would decide amongst ourselves and with your staff that whatever that mitigation measure would be physically, then we would obtain a design for it, get it approved from whatever authorities, and then build it out, and then we could go get a permit. So by the time those steps take place, there is no tenant. We can't have obligations, no tenant, and our contract doesn't allow us to take that period, unknown period of time. Maybe it's 2 years, maybe it's best case 9 months, I guess, but you guys can defer to your own professionals. That we would then tell the tenant, you have an obligation to lease space from us, and we're going to pursue your permit and building out that space after we create this mitigation. So the cart's before the horse. 1, I won't have a tenant, so why am I doing the mitigation? 2, they don't sit there and say, oh, great, yeah, so tell us how it went, and then when you get that done, you come back to us and have the obligation to rent from us. You know, that's not how their business goes. We have to diligently pursue immediately building out their space. If we don't, and we don't meet deadlines, there is no lease. So this is a problem. I believe that there is no risk to the township to still require us before a certificate of occupancy is obtained. Then during that period of time, we can design the infrastructure, design the building, get permits, start construction, knowing that occupancy can never take place as it is conditioned by this approving body, that we can't occupy that space unless we do this mitigation.
In a best-case scenario, what is the envisioned timeline to a certificate of occupancy for Equinox at the White Plains Road, at the
18
750
months.
White Plains Road?
18 months is our estimated. So design, permitting, landlord core, demolition, other work, windows, things like that. And then the interior, which will take 9 months plus permitting and approvals and design. And then tenant improvements for another 12 months. So that's our estimated timeframes allowed within our contract with them to complete the work.
Is this condition has always been part of the resolution?
The condition to provide the mitigation has been a part of the resolution since 2021, when the initial approval was adopted. Since we're reaching it now, we're putting timing to the completion of the improvements that were always anticipated.
But it's always been the 21,000, and once that's passed,
Correct.
the INA has to be enacted before any building permits are issued?
That timing is what we are imposing as part of this condition. That timing was not really worked out in the beginning, in 2021, but now that we've reached that point and having conversations with the building department and the highway department and the town's consulting engineer, they think this is the appropriate timing for that work to be done.
But it is a new condition being
Condition.
that's being brought upon us, which creates an impossibility from a business perspective.
May I just add one thing, too, in terms of the timing? As you can see in the engineer's latest memo, the town is requiring review and approval of whatever mitigation is required by the County of Westchester Department of Health. I think any of our engineers will tell you that they are not an example of fast and expeditious working, and you have no control over them. You can be sitting waiting for them for months. I know this for the project that I am on. And just to answer something that Noelle said, she said the town doesn't want to be in a position of having a building ready for occupancy and not being able to occupy it because the mitigation is not done. It's just the opposite of that. The landlord doesn't want to be in that position. That's why all of this with the mitigation work would be done concurrently with the work on the tenant spaces, so that once the work is done, it could be occupied and there could be a C of O. There's no situation where the landlord's going to sit and wait till the space is built out and then say, oh, now I'll go work on the mitigation. It wouldn't work like that.
We're here to work this out, not be scolded as to what we're doing. So let's work together on this. I appreciate your view, and we hear you. We want you here, too. So let's try and work to something that...
Yeah, in fact, before Mr. Davis asked that question, I was just about to ask you, Noelle, to expand upon the town's rationale as to why, there would be any significant risk of building out this property and then prior to a certificate of occupancy being issued, the whole thing falling apart because of this condition.
Right, well, as it stands now, the mitigation is not decided upon yet. We don't have the parameters of it as a part of the condition. That would be deferred to the town engineer and the building department and the applicant's engineer, and we don't know how long it's going to take, and it just creates difficulties for the building department to have a building that is otherwise ready for occupancy when a planning board condition is not satisfied.
But isn't the thought here that if it's going to take that long to do, that we basically have a property that's unable to be rented out for years? Is that basically what we're talking about?
I'm not sure I understand your question. At which point in time?
No, if we're talking about not even allowing construction to go forward, and that construction process appears to be a fairly lengthy process, particularly when you add the time period for the tenant to build out what they have, as opposed to permitting a significant portion of that to go forward, all the while knowing that both the landlord and the tenant are highly incentivized to get this thing opened. That if you delay that process if you delay the issuance of the building permit until you complete potentially a long period of time, you're basically putting up an impediment, in my view, and I'm only floating this idea, that's going to make this property almost impossible to let.
It would certainly lengthen the duration of the construction process, but it would provide the certainty that the work is completed before this is put into use, and so that it's not sitting ready for occupancy, but for a significant period of time. And it's not the whole building, it's just this one tenant space.
It's only Equinox, everything else could proceed. I don't know what the status of everything else
Yes,
is.
so the way the timing as proposed would work, White Plains Hospital and Saks would not be held up at all from building permits. or certificates of occupancy. Equinox, it would be a condition of the building permit. For the 2 restaurant tenants and the 2 new retail tenants, it would be a condition of the certificate of occupancy.
Does this board have the power to defer that condition until the time of the issuance of the certificate of occupancy?
Yes.
Okay.
We do, okay. Right, so you could work them in parallel and thereby accommodate both at the same time.
Yeah, what more do we have to do to incentivize both the landlord and the tenant to move with all expedition to do whatever they need to do, recognizing, if the county's involved, at least Con Ed's not involved, because as I understand, they're the absolute worst offender. But there are certain elements of this process that are out of the hands of both the landlord and the tenant. I would think that if we strongly incentivize them, and it sounds like they already have very strong incentive to move forward as expeditiously as possible, whatever more we can add to that, either in the form of a carrot or a stick, I think these are, the applicant has been a good presence in the town. I like what they've been doing to get this very large Lord & Taylor property back into a very functional state with a lot of nice offerings for the people of the town and the surrounding areas. And of course, Equinox has been here since 1999. They're a good presence in the town too. I think, I hear what the applicant's saying, and I'm sympathetic to that viewpoint.
Sure. And, one of the things that we're thinking about here is this is a very sensitive sewer area for the town. And, we just really need certainty that the original condition will be executed in, the departments that we've consulted with, the building department, the highway department, the consulting engineer, think this timing is what provides that certainty to the maximum extent. And we're not trying to hold up the project. That's why kind of agreed to allow building permits and for the other uses, but that was the thinking, just because we know this is a sensitive area and it's really important that the work gets done. And I wanted to point out that Mr. Bolander is here if you wanted to ask any questions about the sewer analysis for the area.
Sorry. So you have a consultant that's going to explain this in a little more depth, right? Your consultant was going to give a presentation before we had this sidebar, correct?
Tonight, outside of
I
this.
thought you said you had someone else who would explain the impact of this, or that was it?
Well, one of the impacts that I heard is the possibility of losing this tenant. And I'm assuming that's all baked into whatever agreement you have with the tenant to complete this in a certain period of time.
That's correct.
And I obviously don't need you to tell me, to make the argument for the tenant as to why they're going to break their contract with you or why you can't fulfill it.
Right.
But what is it specifically about the condition that you're arguing against right now that distinguishes it from getting this done at the C of O step? Okay.
There's 3 major components. One is the mitigation isn't determined. We don't know what the mitigation is, so I can't make any. I can't even recommend this to our own company. I can't say go spend the money and the time when we know that it's just a complete unknown. So the mitigation may be determined by the engineers to install a project that takes 5 years, and we're going to have to discuss that. We do mitigation. I'm used to doing it, and I've never had this set of circumstances where it was required for a building permit. It's just typically required at a C of O, or required to be done. Many times the work's done afterwards. Many times we just write a check for it. All of those are available to us. We're happy to help the community to increase the system. We want to do it, but we don't know what it is. We don't know how long it's going to cost, how much it's going to cost, and how long it's going to take. I don't know how to describe that to a tenant, say, hey, someday, after I do the work that's going to be required because you use more sewer by an incremental amount than we previously had, they'll say, get back to us when you do it. But we're not going to do it because we won't have a tenant. It's a catch-22.
Okay, can we talk to could we let our consultant give his opinion on this, please? We
Yes,
heard you say.
I think that our consultants have done the engineering and surmised what their estimate is for the flow, as is your engineers. And I read a memo. It described potential for starting off logically, studying the flow to the basins, then determining what the impacts are, then deciding from that what the mitigation would be, then deciding, then we would design it, then we would build it. I'll ask you, what would be...
Hold on.
Go ahead.
Is that your consultant speaking, or is that you speaking? What you just went through, is that, what you just went through, the narrative you just went through, is that your consultant's narrative, or is that yours?
That's my narrative from reading
Okay, so
my consultants and your engineers.
So can we hear from your consultant? Can we hear from your consultant, please?
Mr.
Thank you.
Villarreal.
Yeah, there's actually even more components to it. First, we have to monitor the existing system, and not just one system.
But there's a consultant that's
We
going
have,
to,
we have to,
Could you
we
let
have
your
to
consult-
monitor two systems before we even, to see what the current situation is before we even get started. And I would say this work, this mitigation that the town wants, contrary to the reasoning that's been given, which makes no sense to me with all respect, this work is much more likely to get done if there's a tenant who wants to occupy the premises than if we lose a tenant because we can't even get a building permit and we can't tell the tenant what's involved. It's really the reverse of the reasoning that's been offered, which to me does not have a rational basis. Our client is totally motivated, could not be more motivated to do the mitigation work as quickly as possible if it has a tenant and a building permit.
I'm going to, good evening.
actually, what your client said was he's willing to do it later, not even now, so that was an option too.
Maybe I can clarify. Just for the record, Diego Villarreal with JMC, the engineering and planning consultant for the applicant. I just want to start off by saying, I don't think anyone disagrees with the fact on our side that we're in an important drainage area. There's sewer work that needs to be completed as part of the condition of the approval. It's simply the timing of the work that needs to be done. I think, quite frankly, our offices are on the same page with the work that needs to be done as part of this process. First step is monitoring and inspection of the existing system to confirm capacity and/or areas that have potential for improvement, for I&I improvements. I&I improvements would consist of maybe lining of a pipe, maybe purging of a manhole, things that need to be done to reduce water flow into the system that shouldn't be there. Sanitary sewer is meant for sanitary sewer flow, not for stormwater flow. So when you have cracks in pipes or when you have cracks in manholes, water gets in there that surcharges the capacity of the system and creates the issues that have been experienced by the town. So nobody has said that that's not happening in this case. It's simply the timing of the work that needs to be done. Step one, as outlined by your engineer, is going to be monitoring of the existing system, identification of potential improvement areas, which we all will know will take some time to do. We have to get the monitors out there, we have to do the inspections of the lines, and that would hopefully be done over the next few months, something along that line. After that is the design phase. We have to identify the improvements, we have to put that to paper, and you have to determine the extent of the improvements that need to be completed. After that, as identified in the memo, is the health department phase. I know Mr. Davis alluded to it, but we all do know that does take some time. So realistically, it is going to take an unknown duration of time right now to get that work completed. That could be done in parallel with a design process and a building permit process and, quite frankly, construction. And quite frankly, it's typical. Like Mr. Birmingham had indicated, a lot of times we get these conditions of these approvals and they're conditioned upon occupancy of the building because that's when the flow is going to be experienced within the system. It's not happening during construction. It's not happening during the design process. So to have someone obligated to spend the money to, one, study the system and complete the work before they're even in a position to receive or submit for a building permit. I'm sorry, not receive a building permit. I believe it was submit for a building permit. Is just you're putting not the cart before the horse, but you're putting it in it's in sequential order as opposed to something that should be done in parallel. Again, nobody is disagreeing with the work that needs to be done. There might be some discussion that we need to have regarding the actual flows because of the numbers that are in there, but the work that needs to be done is very specific. It's understood. We understand the work that needs to be done. It's just the timing of it, and in my experience, being parallel to what has to be done is appropriate, just like it is being conditioned for the other 4 tenants. And when you look at the anticipated flow for the other 4 tenants, when you add those 4 tenants up, it's almost the same as the Equinox, the gym's use. It's really just looking at it as a whole. You need to look at it and then get the process completed.
Just a question, not to interject, but is the study already taking place or in the works for the other tenants, or is this as a whole for your entire?
This is as a whole. No studies has been completed to date. We are at step 1, so we have to go out, and they would like us to investigate and monitor some of the areas to identify the I&I improvements that need to be done.
So then how are the other ones able to proceed if we don't even have that?
Because we're
I don't want to
below
make
that.
I don't want to make a situation worse, but I'm just asking that question.
We're below, so the condition of the approval, I identified a baseline of 21,500 gallons per day.
Yeah.
So with White Plains Hospital and Saks being occupying the building, we're well under that 21,500 gallons per day, which is what the existing flow was for the Lord and Taylor when it was fully occupied. So we were well below that number. With the occupation of these 5 additional tenants, when you look at the total collective flow, we're going to exceed that 21,500 gallons per day, which is what triggers the need for the I&I mitigation measures.
So, and I don't want to jump ahead, but it's known for the other 4 before that 5th one that it's still going to be well below, and Equinox is a known fact that it's going to bring it up?
Again, you have to look at it, we can look at it collectively with the 5 tenants. So for instance, when you put all 5 tenants and add those numbers up, it exceeds it. If we were here with just Equinox, we would be below that 21,500 gallons per day. It's only when we look at all 5 tenants occupying the building in addition to White Plains Hospital and Saxoff Fifth that it triggers the need for this I&I improvement. So again, because we're here with all 5 applications before this board, that's what the cumulative effect of the 5 is what triggers the requirement. Okay. I'm not sure if that answered your question.
Kind of. It makes me think.
Just to process it.
To what Joe's saying is, was it a timing issue where Equinox became the bearer of that, putting you over that tipping point, but the other?
Say again? I'm sorry.
Was it a timing thing where the other applicants maybe submitted first, and now Equinox is the one that's putting you over, tipping the scale, or is it?
I'm not sure I can answer that. I think
Yeah,
it's
so-
just.
That's our consultant. Can we
Yeah,
hear from
so-
our consultant?
Yeah.
Maybe we'll ask
Yeah, I
those
think
questions
he's gonna-
later.
Right, I think he's going to answer some of the questions.
Continue.
So if you're
I'm
done.
not sure I answered his question yet.
But
I just
we're gonna-
Disregard my question. I think I'm going to ask it later, so I'll let you keep on.
Yeah, and why don't we ask Mr. Bolander to give his analysis, and then I can kind of explain where we were at with the kitchen. So yes, we're looking at all 5 together, but it's Equinox that's going to be the biggest contributor, and that's why the others. So when we initially started having these discussions with our departments, the suggestion was to have all the building permits conditioned on the work being completed. But after consulting with the
backed it off
applicant
to-
and taking a look at the numbers and consulting with our engineer, we changed it to that building permit condition only applying to Equinox, the rest going to the certificate of occupancy.
Okay.
And Equinox because it's the largest contributor.
Sure. Okay.
Can we
And
hear from our
can I just
consultant?
ask just about the numbers, so I have them clear in my head, the 21,500 gallons per day flow, that's the threshold after which we have to,
Yeah, that's the
take
base.
measures.
So anything that's
Baseline
over
number.
that,
And that
right.
baseline number is based on what? Was that the flow from the old Lord and Taylor, from the building combined, or was it just sort of a random number?
That was the original Lord and Taylor building. That was the projected flow associated with Lord and Taylor based on the square footage of the building and the different uses that we had within that building. That established a baseline flow of 21,500
And
gallons per day.
the baseline flow projected for the building with all of the
Everything.
applications, and I think the only thing that's missing here, there's some third floor or storage space that's not being
We
occupied right now.
included that in the
included that,
latest
okay.
version that we provided. We came up with a flow of 22,695 gallons per day, which is only about 1,100 or 1,200 gallons more than that baseline flow. I know there's some comments from your consulting engineer on what that number should be with Equinox, but regardless, we're very close to that 21,500 gallons per day.
That's all in?
That's all
That's
in.
everything,
Okay.
yes.
Well, I think in the last meeting, you mentioned, and maybe it's not fair to give you this number perhaps out of context, but a direct
can.
quote from you is, "So we did the calculations, we looked at the various numbers, and the total projected flow associated with that, based on the memorandum that was submitted to you, it is about 36,000
Correct.
gallons per day."
Yep.
So what?
Very
what-
fair question. That was the-
22 and 36, tell me the difference.
No, it's a very fair question. That was the original memo that was provided, and that's when we looked at Equinox based on a per-person basis. During that time, from when we submitted that memo to when we appeared before your board last month, and we touched on this quickly, we went to the existing Equinox facility and obtained their water records to understand what the actual flow is. The estimates that were utilized are based on a book and a regulation that says the flow is based on per person within the building. But the best information is what is the actual flow. We fortunately, in this case, have the existing Equinox in the village, in the town, and we're able to go get their actual water records. And they had a flow not of approximately 5,000 gallons on average over the last year. So we utilized that number. We increased it by 50% to just put, because we have a larger facility in this location. So we increased it by 50%, and that's how we ended up with an updated number for the Equinox facility. Now, that is what brought it down. When you look at it per patron basis, it's a much higher number, but to me, it's not a realistic flow. So it's something that you need to consider, and that was something that was submitted to the engineer. We understand they had a comment regarding that as well. Maybe at the end of the day, it's 170% or 180, whatever the number is. Right now, we're at 150% of what the calculation was in that other location. Regardless, we're still not going to be significantly above the 21,500.
How does this play out in a negotiation or otherwise between the town and the applicant? Presumably, if you were to get your building permit and we're getting to the point where you now want your certificate of occupancy, and there's some difference of opinion as to what the because you're still not operating Equinox at this point. You don't have real numbers. You still have perhaps a difference of opinion on the numbers. How does that play out in real life?
Yeah. I can answer that if you don't
First,
mind.
or I'm gonna- I
So
have
the
an opinion
condition
on that,
itself
but go ahead.
provides that our consulting engineer and our building department and the applicant's engineer would work together to come to an agreement on the extent of the flows and the mitigation. And if they can't, it gets referred back to your board for amended site plan approval.
Correct.
Okay. All right.
Sorry, one other question, which is good for you, is the proposed design of the new Equinox, total square footage increasing by 50% is great, but what is the actual difference in the water facilities, like the showers, the bathrooms? What is the difference between those?
I don't have the exact numbers with me. I don't know exactly what it is, but there is added facilities and added square footage. So that is why, again, we increased it by that 50% threshold there. But it is
But-
100% accurate. There is added facilities within this.
So more showers, more everything, because of the total occupancy is higher probably.
100%. Yep.
Yeah, and I think we established that I can't remember what the numbers were, but it was not quite double in overall square footage, but that included a lot more kind of classrooms and possibly, less active areas. It's spread out more. There's going to be more space.
Understood.
So obviously, there could be a difference of opinion as to whether the 150% is an accurate number or something slightly more than that, but I wouldn't think that you're, with less than double the space, that you're going to more than double the patronage.
I'll be honest with you, even if we doubled the Equinox number, again, we were at 5,000 gallons per day, we assumed 7,500. Even if it went to double to 10,000 gallons per day, it still is only a few thousand gallons above the 21,500. And again, based on my experiences with I&I improvements and the things that need to be done, you'd be surprised if you line a pipe how much additional flow is reduced from this system through lining of one pipe and lining and parging of a manhole as well. So again, I think we could come to a consensus on the flow. I think we could come to a consensus on the improvements that need to be completed. I do believe it's just the timing of it is what's really in discussion, whether or not it happens parallel or whether or not it happens sequentially. Sequentially obviously creates a problem for the applicant from a timing standpoint.
With the work happening parallel, it's still an unknown with the, with regards to the health department part of it and stuff like that. That part would still be unknown, so
The timing is somewhat unknown.
so theoretically, the construction can finish first ahead of that.
Case in point of what I believe Noel was referring to, that,
Yeah.
again, the town doesn't want to be put in a position where you have a building that's ready to be occupied, but I go back to Mr. Davis's
Right.
statement, in no way does the applicant want to be in that position,
Sure.
simply because it's obviously not a position anybody wants to be.
But also keep in mind, I'm sure the applicant wouldn't want to be in a position that they do have a place that's fully designed, fully built, and they can't use their bathrooms.
That's
Right?
well,
So-
you don't have a C of O, so.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yes.
Exactly. They're,
Yeah,
so
you're just sitting-
everybody's on the same page to get a solution, but the concern is to make sure that we're on a path to get that solution, and time is of the essence, right?
Understood. And I think it's just a matter of continuing to work with the engineer to, one, identify and confirm the flows, and then start working towards understanding what the improvements are. I mean, maybe you could set up some milestones for that, whatever you want to do, but at the end of the day, from our standpoint, it has to be in parallel. It can't happen one after the next.
Okay, before we jump into your take, a separate question that I have is, aside from the sewage utility comment, there were other comments aside from that we were bringing up even last meeting about the traffic and everything. That is still also pending, aside from this, I guess, is the major topic, which is why you want to get something in parallel going. There's still other open items, correct, as far as?
So for this application, there are a few other open items that I think we can resolve with
Yeah.
post-approval work with the town's engineer and the building department. There is, as a part of the original 2021 approval, a requirement after 90,000 square feet of the building are occupied to do a post-occupancy traffic analysis.
Okay.
And so what we've done in the resolutions that are proposed, and if anybody's interested, there are copies in the back, we've incorporated by reference the conditions of the prior approvals, and when 90,000 square feet are occupied and have a certificate of occupancy, they will have to perform a traffic analysis.
So the major concern, the topic is this topic. Got it. Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Can we get your take on this?
Thank you, Mr. Villarreal. Yeah.
You come here. Oh, you get to stay there.
Good evening, Rick Boland with KSEJ Consulting. As was echoed through this, the real one remaining concern, and the number that is still up in the air, is the sewer generated by the gym. It was a bit of a red flag, and a small red flag, nothing crazy, but just the differences of flows between the two submissions, from the 18,000 to the 7,000. And I want to say we're somewhere in the middle, probably maybe closer to the 7,000 than the 18,000, but we still need to figure out that number. Because yes, it's only an increase, say a plus of 2,000 or 3,000 gallons per day. But in a system that's very taxed already, there's two systems in the area of Lord and Taylor. It's, well, for lack of a better term, I'll call it the Harney Road system and the Leewood system. I think we're all very familiar with the Harney Road system. I've been part of projects that for a combination of reasons, but a lot to do with the sanitary sewer flows have fallen through and have not happened because of the quality and the condition of that existing system. So after speaking at length with the highway department, we would like to see, the highway department, the town would like to see the Leewood Road system analyzed instead of the Harney Road system. From what I gathered from the highway super, it seems that that system is in much better condition and would accept the additional flows much better than the Harney Road. There would have to be an easement set up to cross the main entrance, but I don't see a problem with that. So I think our best step going forward would be a meeting between our office, the project engineer, the highway department, so we could, as best we can, quicken this process, kind of pinpoint what needs to be done, what we would like to see. And I feel like that would be the best way going forward. I understand that this was a stipulation in the 2021 resolution, but at the same time, the owner, they don't know who the tenants are going to be, and obviously the tenants will change the amount of flows, so they can't really 100% hone in on the design because of that. There's still unknowns, and we're sympathetic of that. But the analysis of either system, we could start that immediately, where that could be modeled. We have town records of that system that could be modeled in a computer program, and we can see. Because I think we're mixing up I&I and the actual system itself. And I know they go hand in hand, but I think first we'd like to see if the system, what system can handle it better, regardless of I&I and regardless of the stormwater flows, because, you know, most importantly, right now, let's just focus on sanitary and, you know, what happens during rainstorms when all the rainwater gets into the system and surcharges the system. We need to first figure out sanitary sewer. So we'd like to see, and it doesn't need to be both of them because that's time consuming and money not well spent, but we'd like to see, okay, we, the town, the highway super would prefer the Leewood sewer shed. Now we have a lot of information on that sewer shed, so now let's analyze that and see what kind of capacity we have in that to accept those flows. And, you know, what those flows are, we'll figure that out. I've no doubt that the engineer and I could agree on a number. That's not,
Okay,
that's
well,
the last, we do not want that holding this up.
what you just said, there's no doubt that we're going to agree on it. What is the percentage, realistically, that we are not going to find a solution here and that the town is going to say, we just can't put Equinox here, it's going to create too much of a flow of water? What's the odds of that happening? Close to zero?
Close to zero.
Okay. Then this
From what
becomes
I've-
an issue of timing.
Yep.
It's purely timing. And I'm not understanding, I know you've said we should get on this immediately. Everyone's in agreement on that.
Yep.
But what is it about, other than the town maintains greater leverage? I get that.
Mm-hmm.
If it delays the issuance of the building permit, but knowing this is going to get built and knowing that no one's occupying this place without a certificate of occupancy, what is the harm other than that loss of some minuscule amount of leverage?
No, you're correct. And I was a bit surprised at the build-out time for Equinox. The 18 months, I think that affords us a lot more time than I assumed. For some reason, in my head, I had about 6 months for that build-out, and I was, to be honest, getting nervous about that because the last thing we want to do is hold this up. That's not what we're trying to do at all. So I had 6 months in my mind. To hear 18 months, I would hope we would come to a solution in that 18-month period.
Correct, but if
Regardless-
it takes
regardless
18
of
months.
the health department
And we're
and-
starting that later because of a later issuance of the building permit, isn't that a precarious position we'd be putting the applicant in? If 18 months should be enough to resolve it concurrently?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
So, hang on. So, as far as the numbers go, it's not just a matter of agreeing to a flow rate or two. You think that's feasible, that you'll be able to do that?
Absolutely.
It will be, you said something about different ways
Sewer
to
sheds.
send it? Yeah. Is there a time and cost associated with that?
Analyzing those sewer sheds, absolutely,
And installing?
and installing. And I think we'd be a lot more comfortable if before any I&I, before we decide on what would be done for the I&I, we know the capacity of that system. I think we'd be a lot more comfortable knowing, okay, maybe not Harney Road, but if the Leewood Road system is running at 40% and this changes to 45%, we have a lot of play there, and we'd be a lot more comfortable with that.
There's a cost getting there, I guess, but you'll have more capacity?
What's that?
There's more capacity in the Harney Road system, so even if it costs more to get there, it'll get you what you need.
More capacity, and this is going on, just real life incidents. There's really from what I've gathered from the highway super, there hasn't been nearly as many incidents and surcharging events on the Leewood Road as Harney. I think we're all very familiar
We
with.
dealt with that with Ray Place, we dealt with
Yes.
it.
Summerfield.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we had a very good solution with, all it took was the MTA to say yes, and they said
So-
no over and over and over again.
The cost for this is borne by the applicant, right?
Correct.
So as long as the applicant agrees, whatever it takes, they're paying, then,
But they won't know until,
well, that's the next question, right? So at what point do you have an idea of what it costs? I mean, is it an interim step along the way when everyone says, okay, this is what we think needs to be done, this is the cost, presented to the client, presented to the applicant, such that they're not caught off guard by it?
And it wouldn't be just order of magnitude. As the project engineer was saying, it might be 1,000 gallons per more in our eyes. If we find that happy medium, and it doesn't have to be right in the middle. It doesn't have to be, between 7,000 and 18,000, so 12,000. It could be 9,000 or 10,000. So the cost, it wouldn't be that much more. It's not going to make that big of a dent. And that's easy for me to say. It's not my money, but I just know order of magnitude and just familiar with these kind of projects.
Listening to the applicant, I don't think this is about money, it's about schedule, right?
Yes.
So it's more about the schedule. But you're sort of assuring us that regardless, you think we can at least get it all done before in the 18 months?
Yes.
And it sounds like the applicant's ready to take a chance on this, go forward with the
Absolutely.
construction, knowing that there's going to be a bill to pay at the end of the day, but they're going to get it, they recognize that the town isn't going to hold their feet
Right, that-
completely to the fire. They're going to be reasonable, we always are, right?
Well, maybe if you're interested in kind of a compromise between what is proposed by the departments and what is being proposed by the applicant, I mean, maybe what we do is say no building permit before the plan is agreed to by the building department and the town engineer, and no certificate of occupancy until it's done. But I would want to impress upon you that it is a hard and fast condition that no certificate of occupancy can be issued until it's done. You know, this is a sensitive area, and sewage cannot be
The applicant
contributed.
We
is
have to
echoing
hold
that.
firm on that, yeah.
mhm.
well, even the applicant's willing to spend the money on the design, spend the money on construction with the risk. If it's too big of a job or an impossible, I don't think it's an impossible job. I'm sure there's an engineering solution, just a matter of.
Nothing's impossible.
Anything is could be done. It
There's a
depends
solution.
on
But
how
I'm hearing,
much.
I asked that question, there will be an engineering
And they're willing to
solution
take
this. Yeah.
that chance in
always
proceeding with
is.
the cost for the design and construction. They just want to save on time.
Yes.
So,
But in the meanwhile, the other tenants can begin, right?
And the other, yes, as the condition currently reads, the other tenants can begin. It's just a condition of a certificate of occupancy that the work is completed.
So the applicant just wants to bring Equinox in line with the other, yeah.
Right, so the question is, do you want to go all that way, or do you want to have an interim step where a plan is agreed to before a building permit can be issued? That's up, that's up to you.
doesn't hurt
We-
to have a
we got it.
baseline.
What's
What's
that?
the,
It
what's the,
doesn't hurt to have a
what does
milestone
the
and then
applicant
reconvene.
intend on,
Milestone.
with respect to time?
Like
Well, let's ask them. Let's ask our, if you were to want to have this meeting, figure out what to do some surveys, come back, give a check-in as to where we're going, what we're doing, would that be a suitable way to, a suitable way to address this, to make sure everyone agrees that we're going to get there?
100%, yes.
And at what point during the review of the existing systems would you be able to make an assessment, a yay or a nay, or a feasibility? Probably today.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, and we'll come to that agreement on the number. We could do that. I'm exaggerating, but in the parking lot after this, we could,
That's what I'm kinda
exaggerating a bit,
thinking.
but
This
it would be, it's in everyone's best interest to come to that agreement as soon as we can.
Rick, is there a threshold with the gallons, whether you meet in the middle or not, where the county is not involved in this?
The health department will have to review this regardless, and that 3-on-1 is just,
That's not even,
a strong suggestion by the county. It's kind of a standard that they've set for projects like this, and we've done this in my short time at the office. We've done this on many subdivisions where it's the 3-on-1 mitigation, where it's a four-lot subdivision is going in, so there's an increase, say 4 bedrooms, so 1,600 gallons per day. The sewer line that they're connecting into, they camera that 500, 600 feet, and then we review that footage, and we're looking for cracks, and we're looking for roots, and we're looking for dislodged pipes and illegal connections, and then we kind of put our plan together to mitigate. And that is a fairly quick process.
So just to reiterate, I just want to make sure I'm understanding this correctly. You are saying that the cost that the tenant would undertake in order to approach this with the most conservative design, construction, means and methods, the whole 9, at this juncture, you're not sure if the juice is worth the squeeze, or do we want to just agree that we're going to approach this as conservatively as possible, even though I do know that they took the existing gallons per day with Equinox, put in the 50% contingency. If we revert back to the previous submission with the 36,000 gallons per day, you're saying at this juncture, the cost to design and construct and address that might not be something we want to do right now, just because it might not be cost effective, even though it would alleviate the schedule burden if it were to delay the process of approving the concurrent.
Regardless of that flow increase, it's definitely worth it to go forward with that.
Understood. Okay.
It's not going to be that big a difference analysis-wise.
So we're in agreement that we're going to go the most conservative route? Okay.
Yes. And most conservative route, not saying that number on the submission 2 submissions ago. We still need to figure that out. But not that high, and I don't think that low, but it's somewhere in the middle, and not exactly in the middle, but
Okay, so that's just
what kind of
regardless of the
Yes.
construction and the design that you'd implement?
Yep.
Understood. Thank you.
no
what kind
problem.
of numbers are we talking about to do this I&I remediation? Just
Well,
ballpark.
it'd be anything on top of the 21.5.
No, not the flows, the actual cost to line the pipes, survey the pipes. Are we talking 10, 20, 50, 100?
I can't speak to that.
Range. You could give me a range.
What's that?
You could give me
Range.
a range.
Okay, let's think about this. What did it
I'm
cost?
not going to hold you to it.
What did it cost 5 rate place? And in some municipalities, they do assign a dollar amount, maybe $1 to each
Oh, I see.
gallon per day. So if you're increasing 20,000 gallons, you're paying 20,000 to some kind of fund that they have set up. Obviously, that's not the case in this town. But I guess I could relate back to Ray Place. I think we were talking, and that increase, from what I remember, was just over the 2,500 limit for not health department review or health department review. That was reviewed by the health department. I think we were looking at mitigation-wise between around $15,000, I believe.
So that's at 2,500 became $15,000?
Yeah. So, and if we come to a number where the increase is only 2,000, then maybe you could.
So $5 a gallon? Okay.
And this is just off the top of my head.
Ballpark.
Ray
Yeah,
Place was a
yeah,
while
we won't
ago.
hold you to it.
That's fine.
I hope
It's not a big number. Is that, so do we typically, when we go into these I&I things, put a price tag on it, just so everyone knows, or we just present the bill when we're done?
The applicant would perform the work with permits from the highway department, so we wouldn't bill for that work. We would have they would pay the contractors directly
pay
for that.
directly.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
Typically, we don't relate it to a dollar amount. We relate it to the 3-to-1 that the county recommends.
Yeah, I guess. So is it worthwhile to have that meeting, sort of plan out an agenda, milestones, everyone agree, and then, because I think we're willing to re-examine our requirement if it helps
Sure.
us
I
move
mean,
forward.
what we have here is only what's proposed based on our conversations with the departments. The decision
Yeah,
is yours.
I think we're still protecting the town, but by moving forward, as long as it's monitored. I think right now, we know it's being monitored, it's feasible, and something that can be done. That's what I've heard from
Correct.
the applicant, from our consultant.
So just to clarify, are you interested in having an interim point where before a building permit, we have some kind of agreement as to what's going to be done? Or do you just want to link it to the certificate of occupancy What are your thoughts about?
Would they have to come back to us, or is this a self-executing?
The way it's drafted now, it's a self-executing condition whereby the applicant would work with our town consulting engineer kind of through the building department. At the end of the day, it would be the building inspector who would sign off on what is proposed and when it's completed.
So as in before they
Don't come
pull,
to agreement, then it would come back to the board.
Correct.
Yeah, I'm willing to leave it up to you I'm willing to leave it up to you to tell us what that point is, when it should be, and bring it back to us, but at least get started
Yeah, and that works
to
for us.
get this moving.
Yeah, I mean, if it works out as drafted, you would not see it again. It would come.
Yeah, okay, we don't need to know
It would be completely
about it.
executed per the condition. Only if we cannot come to an agreement would it come back to you for further analysis.
Right. If there's a problem, we don't want to hear about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Okay, I'm good with that.
Yeah, I'm good with that, too.
So you're good with that, meaning that you're good with keeping it in the same manner as the other 4 tenants
Yes.
to the certificate of occupancy?
With the condition that there be set up a meeting or milestones or something to make sure everything's moving in the right direction, some status.
If there's an off-ramp, that it comes back to us if there's a...
Sure.
Yeah.
So at the end of the condition, it says, if the applicant and the building inspector can't agree on the required scope or
Yep.
extent of the inflow and infiltration improvements, and the building inspector shall refer the application back to the planning board. So that would be the check. We wouldn't really set
Yes,
up
perfect.
timeframes right now, but if they came to an impasse where they thought your input was needed, it would be referred back.
Yeah, we're undertaking to work on this as expeditiously as the town wants and to do it very quickly. And all we're asking is that the resolution just be tweaked
Yeah.
that slight amount to make it the same as the other tenants in terms of.
Yeah, I think the applicant's highly incentivized to move this expeditiously. Mr. Bolander has pointed out that it's going to get done. So I don't see the purpose of risking a delay here, whether it's, there is a real risk of losing this tenant or not. I'm just not seeing the value in not running these concurrently.
I guess
It was a
on behalf of the
proposal.
building department, I would just want to say that, this really should be a hard and fast condition. What would be a bad set of facts is to have the gym fully ready for
Yeah.
occupancy, but for this, and have somebody say, well, can't we just occupy for a little while and then complete it? I mean, this work has to be done before that gym could be occupied.
We make that a little more explicit in there, that, it says right there, it's not going to be issued before it's
Right,
CFO.
and maybe include,
Regardless of-
no TCO either.
Right, without prejudice, that it can't be done until, TCOs will not be issued until this is done.
Yeah, the condition is the condition, just like with the other tenants. There's no reason why the building inspector has to say, oh, I'll give you a temporary C of O. You haven't met the condition. We understand that, and we intend to meet the condition.
Yeah, often he'll be asked for those things, notwithstanding. So I just want to make it clear.
Yeah,
Okay.
we'd like to get it in writing. We believe you, but we'd still like to get it in writing. It's everyone's best interest to have it written somewhere. We just don't want to have to go through this and you come back to convince us that we should issue the TCO even though the work's not done. I don't think that'll be done.
I guess as an alternative to your point, Noel, it's maybe before they pull permits for construction, they just let us know that it's done? Or at least give us an update?
They let you know that what's done.
The analysis, or there's a resolution? I mean, the design process should be finalized with the actual design at the end of the day, right?
Right, that would be that midpoint if you want that to be done before the issuance of a building permit and then the work to be done before the issuance of a certificate of occupancy.
Okay.
Okay, so we're changing the wording. Rick is in control of getting all this. So how quickly do they start? Like, is this you pick up the phone tomorrow and they start the studies? Or who's doing the contracting? The applicant, right?
Yes, it can start, I don't want to say immediately, but I think, like I said, the first step would be to, let's get the powers to be in a room together, the reviewing engineers, our office, the design engineers, the highway superintendent, and let's narrow down an area, or let's put a plan, at least the start of a plan together, where it's, let's look at the Leewood Road sewer shed that has more capacity. I think it would be in everyone's best interest if flow was diverted to there instead of struggling with the Harney Road sewer shed that we already know has problems.
Yes, that's a voice of reason. I agree with you. Okay. So, thank you. So do we have to approve them one by one? or-
Okay, so we have a couple of things to do. This is still an open public
It's public,
hearing, so I
yes.
don't know if anybody is here to
right.
speak to this. And then after we go through that process, if you're ready to move forward, what we've done is we've prepared resolutions for each of the 4 applications, so you can just kind of reference them rather than reading them all the way through.
Right.
I would just, we've made some modifications to one of the conditions that is included in all 4 resolutions, so I'll just read the modified condition for you so you can know exactly what it says, and we can just incorporate that modified condition into each of the resolutions.
Good. All right, so let's open the public hearing, right?
Oh, yeah, sorry. So I make a motion, this is a public hearing, it's open, but I make a motion to reopen the public hearing, application 25-24.
Was it open last time?
It was open last time,
Okay.
yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
It remained open, so
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
So this is application 25-24.
This is all 4.
All 4, all at once, okay. So for all the applications, 25, 24, 28, 29, and 30.
All 4 750 White Plains Road applications, all of which involve LT Eastchester LLC.
If there are any comments from the public?
Hi, Mary Beth Forcello, 21 Vernon Drive. I live downstream from Lord and Taylor's, and I'm calling it downstream because we have sewer problems, big sewer problems. And I'm thrilled if you guys are going to fix something. That would really be great. But what's my recourse when they open and now we're having even worse sewer problems? I mean, this is a big problem in the town. And I don't know that a $15,000 sleeve is going to fix anything.
So I'm not really sure of what this person is talking about and how it relates to your lines. You live where?
I live behind the Lord and Taylor's parking lot. I live parallel to Wilmot Road.
So where are we looking at? Are any of the lines or any of the work we're going to be doing going to affect her
The
lines?
Harney Road line, I'm sure.
It's the Hardy Road line.
There's 3 sewer sheds.
Yeah, come back here.
Hi.
Yeah.
Again, I spoke with the highway superintendent today. There's a structure about at the intersection of Wilmot and Vernon, and there's 3 large sewer sheds that all empty into that one structure and then eventually make its way down Brook Street. So it's a bit of a problem there. So that's one of the reasons that sparked analyzing the other sewer shed, the Leewood Road sewer shed.
So is this residence problems a result of what goes on at that intersection, or is it further down the line, or I don't know where?
It's a combination. It's at that intersection, and then you have undersized lines downstream of that can't handle flows, so flow backs up.
Oh, it backs up.
It can't be conveyed as fast as it needs to be to alleviate.
So if anything, then this will upgrade that area, right?
If, in theory, yes, and that's the ultimate goal. But again, what we're looking to do is take that completely offline from that sewer shed, I think would be, again, the ultimate goal from what I've gathered in discussions with town representatives.
Through
So-
Leewood instead.
You're going to Leewood, so nothing we do is going to change this residence issues.
It would help to take off this, which is currently going to that sewer shed.
Oh, it
It's
is?
going-
Okay.
Yes.
It would redirect
It'll
the
shed the
route
load.
flow.
It'll shed the load because anything that's currently there is being used by that.
That's it, yes. Yep,
There's
It'll
more
actually make it
capacity.
better, I think. That's what I'm gathering, right? It'll actually
Yes.
make it better.
that's the goal.
Okay.
Because the capacity in the pipes that this residence is affected by is going to be less.
Yep.
Does that make sense to the resident?
It would make it less, is that what you said?
That's the ultimate goal,
Well,
yes.
that would be wonderful. But
I mean, that's what we're-
anything is added to it now, I mean, it's already not working now.
Right, I think what our engineer, and he's our engineer, is saying is that anything we do in relation to this application is going to make the capacity of your pipe that's causing issues on your point less. Therefore, your issues could be reduced.
Yeah,
As he
it's-
said, in theory, but that's what the engineering shows.
It's always a hard sell to the residents that this process whereby, we're supposed to have a 3-to-1 mitigation ratio, in theory at least, is actually going to make things better, because, you know, whenever there's a heavy storm or something, I'm sure you're experiencing problems. All we can say is that, you know, if you do nothing, you probably have the same problems, right? This is an effort to, because we have an applicant here who's required to take certain steps to make sure that that the water flow, it certainly doesn't get worse, but ideally gets better. We're able to pass on to them the cost of making certain improvements in the system, and that's where this negotiation.
Or just Equinox? Like, if you know, mitigated by taking it away from the Harney, and the whole building, including the hospital, which is, I'm sure, adding to the sewage, probably more than the Equinox,
It would be the whole building. That would be the,
Harney.
to take the whole building off Harney and add it to the Leewood super shed.
Okay,
That's a good thing.
It's a good thing.
that would be a good thing.
But that's not set in stone. That's the
This is-
direction
yeah,
that
we still need
we're
to
going.
iron this out,
Yeah.
but that's the ultimate goal.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you for your comment. I hope we addressed it. Any other comments from the public? Maybe easier comments? No, good. So I close the public hearing? Is that what I'm doing?
Yes.
You gave me notes. Okay, let's do it then. So if we don't have any other comments here, guys, we're moving forward. So I make a motion to close the public hearing on applications 25-24, 25-28, 25-29, 25-30, all related to 750 White Plains Road.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And now we're going to adopt the resolutions on each one individually, so stand by as I do that.
Before we do that, can I just, so the resolutions include a condition 1, we've changed it, to, so I'm going to read how we've changed it, and then we'll just, if you're ready, if you would like to, proceed with the resolutions with this modified condition.
With the, and this condition is part of
Yeah,
each
so,
one.
so what you have in front of you is just, I kind of put it on its own sheet what that condition 1 to each of the resolutions is, with some modifications from the original draft, and now I've marked it up based on our conversation at this meeting.
So would you like to put that on the record?
Sure, why don't I read that,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
then we can
please.
just
No.
incorporate it by reference into the resolutions.
Thank you.
So bear with me as I read this lengthy condition. The addition of the proposed tenants, Kava, application 25-29, Tate Bakery, application 25-30, and Equinox, application 25-28, and 2 additional retail tenants will cause the total sewer flow rates to exceed 21,500 gallons per day, implicating the requirement of condition 5 of resolution application number 21-22 to provide inflow and infiltration improvements to mitigate the additional flow above the base flow 21,500 gallons per day at a recommended 3-to-1 ratio. Based on comments from the town's consulting engineer, it appears that the most significant contribution to the sewer flows will be the proposed health and fitness facility. A final determination of the projected sanitary sewer flow from the health and fitness facility shall be agreed upon by the town's consulting engineer and the applicant's engineer. The applicant and the building inspector, as advised by the town's consulting engineer and highway superintendent, shall work in good faith to determine the required inflow and infiltration improvements to be completed by the applicant to achieve the stated mitigation. No temporary certificate of occupancy, or certificate of compliance shall be issued for any uses except for the approximately 75,000 square foot area leased by White Plains Hospital, which was the subject of prior planning board approval, and the proposed approximately 5,940 foot expansion of Saks off Fifth. So no COs for any use other than those, including Equinox, Kava, Tate Bakery, or the other 2 proposed retail tenants until the above referenced mitigation is completed to the satisfaction of the building inspector. If the applicant and the building inspector cannot agree on the required scope and extent of the inflow and infiltration improvements, then the building inspector shall refer the application to the planning board for an amendment to this approval. So that's the modified condition to be incorporated into each resolution.
Good.
Sounds good. So then we will go through each one separately.
Just before we all agree to it, the two engineers speak if they agree on a number, and it's going to positively impact by using the Leawood station and have no negative effect on the residents, then we would move forward.
Yeah, so if the engineers can agree on the extent of the increase and on the mitigation, the applicant will do it, and when that work is done and all the other work for the tenant space is done, then they can get a CO.
Okay.
If they can't come to that agreement, they'll be back before
Back to
your
the
board.
board. Thank you.
So, Noel, the only application that has to be modified is Equinox, and it's going to have the same verbiage as, well, they're all going to have this, right?
Right, this condition was included in each of the 4 resolutions, so for each resolution, maybe you just want to make the motion to approve the resolution as drafted with condition 1 as modified.
Right, with the one modified. Okay, so we could go through that then. So I make a motion to adopt the resolution granting site plan and architectural review approval for application 25-24, LT Eastchester LLC, 750 White Plains Road, subject to conditions, including the resolution described and modified, or additional conditions, which there are none.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're going to go through this for each one. So the next one is 28. So I make a motion to adopt the resolution approving the issuance of a special use permit for application 25-28, LT Eastchester LLC, Equinox 750 White Plains Road, subject to the conditions included in the resolution.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to adopt the resolution approving the issuance of a special permit for application 25-29, LT Eastchester LLC, Kava Restaurant, 750 White Plains Road, subject to the conditions included in the resolution. Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to approve the resolution approving the issuance of a special permit for application 2530, LT Eastchester Tate Bakery, 750 White Plains Road, subject to the conditions included in the resolution.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. We're good. I think you're good.
Good summer.
You're welcome. The next application is 2510 Maple Avenue.
Good evening, Chairman, Planning Board. I'm Anthony DiGiuseppe. I'm the architect for Ronald Moog for the renovation of 11 Maple Avenue. Just to give you a little summary, history of what has happened so far. We went to the building department, got a letter of denial, went to the ZBA. They approved the site plan in regard to the side yards because it was a non-conforming building on a non-conforming site built prior to the zoning code. We then went to yourself as a planning board, and we made a few modifications on the plan, which were really corrections, and had to do with the north arrow on the site plan, and also labeling one of the elevations that was corrected. And I believe you have those copies of those plans. We then went to the Architectural Review Board on June 5th, and the board approved the application for the materials, for the hardware, lighting, colors, the windows. They had one comment, which was to adjust the window placement so it conformed with the plan, which was a slightly out of dimension when we did the elevations. So that was adjusted, and according to the floor plans, which you have a copy of that. So we are now in the process of looking for approval from the from the planning board, and then to move forward on to the building department to get permits.
Sure. Can you just show us the elevation again? It shows the windows that shifted,
I don't.
or the ones that didn't shift, and point to the ones that did.
This is the renderings that we
Actually, you can put it over
If
there.
you wouldn't mind just using the microphone
Put it over
too.
there.
Thanks.
and let him grab it. Thank you.
And if you could grab the microphone so they can.
Do we have?
This was the two elevations. This was the east elevation, which faces the street. This is what it looks like now. This is what it would look like when the renovation is done. This is the south elevation here, which has the two entrances to the apartments, which is on the first floor and the second floor and the third floor. And this is what it looks like now as built out on the front, so it conforms to the floor plan, which is on the first floor. So we're not increasing the footprint at all. So we're using the same footprint that the building presently has. This was a board of the materials, which was this is the existing stone, which will be along the by the staircase and along the bottom of the base where the first floor is. The lighting. This is the doors with the 6-pane top. This was the gutters are done in the stainless here, which actually galvanized aluminum. And you see the color of the paint, which was on the board and batten. And this is the windows color, which is a black, and it's a Pella Lifestyle window. And there will all the windows are double hung, with the exception of one basement window, actually one first floor window, which is at grade level on the south side of the building. Everything else is double hung, and that's it.
Very nice, thank you. Any comments, folks?
No, it looks very nice.
Cool, this is an open public hearing, so if there's any comments from the public, please come up now. Since there's no comments, I make a motion to close the public hearing on application 25-10, 11 Maple Avenue.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I make a motion to approve this application 25-10, 11 Maple as submitted, subject to compliance with the plans submitted for review at this meeting. No conditions.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great, you're good. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next application is 2509 80 Park Avenue. Thank you. You're welcome. Have a nice evening.
Good for them.
Good evening, Board. My name is Milot Shala. I am the project architect for 80 Park Avenue. Our team is comprised of a land surveyor, an engineer. Elliot Senior is the project engineer. We're presenting for the first time this evening to the board reconstruction of existing home. Property owners purchased this home in November, Deanna and Bernard, and they hired me to design their home. And we concluded after significant review of the home that we're essentially removing the 2 stories of existing home, and we're essentially reconstructing the existing home and as well expanding it horizontally at the rear. At the front, we're keeping the existing front porch as it is located now with respect to existing foundations, and we're expanding horizontally the existing porch, and we're adding a roof. At the rear yard, we're proposing a roofed veranda, which becomes a balcony, and also on top of the building, we're actually proposing a roof as well, per the owner's request. So with respect to site plan review, we're proposing to expand the existing driveway from a 1 parking space driveway to a 2 parking space due to the very narrow road on Park Avenue. There's no space to park cars there. And the owner actually has 3 cars. So one, he would park inside the garage space, which is the existing space, and then we're adding additional space to the left of the existing driveway. I'd like to share with the board photographs of the existing conditions, just so we can recognize the condition. You can just see it up close, if I may approach the board and approach the bar.
Are they,
You have one that you could put up there?
Yes.
Okay.
Of course.
Because it'll get projected on the screen so that everybody can see it.
So you can probably, just, I'm not sure if you can see, yes, okay, thank you. So if you look at the existing, conditions, you'll see that throughout the existing structure, there walls are leaning about 3 to 5 degrees. The building is not square, plumb, and level, which kind of led me to make the ultimate recommendation to Deanna and Bernard to essentially remove the 2-story house. And then they, of course, they're planning to expand the house because the family is growing. They have a young family. So then we composed this design, which is, in essence, it's a modernist home. It's very, it's expressed with minimalism. It's very simple, pure shapes. We had sought 4 variants from the Zoning Board of Appeals. We were granted. One is with respect to front yard, which is the existing condition, which is non-conforming. The second variance had to do with 6 inches at the side yard, and then we're also adding additional 125 square feet, and we're increasing the first floor height elevation. As prescribed for the zoning resolution, we can only go 3 feet. We're adding another foot with respect to the existing elevation of the first floor versus the proposed. So if I can just point out that the existing, which is, I'm just flashing the light here. So we're just adding another foot to the existing elevation. And we were granted that 4th variance by the Zoning Board of Appeals. So this evening we'll present the site plan with respect to, just your recommendations moving forward. We are aware we have to review this with the Architecture Council and the board to see if we can get their recommendations and comments with respect to finishes as well.
so hang on one sec. What's the gentleman in the back? Who's the new guy? What's his name? Oh. Are you back there?
Jeff?
Jeff, could you zoom in on the middle 2 on the presentation that's up on the easel, please? Could you put the camera back on the board? Not me. There you go. So the 2 middle, the top and bottom, the 2 in the middle, could you zoom in just a little more on those? Yeah, keep going. Good, stop. Out. Cool. So can you explain, whoa, baby. So that's the front elevation existing on the top, correct? Over there.
This is existing on
Right,
top,
and
and the
bottom.
proposed is at the bottom here.
Right, so is that that's a new addition on top, or that's existing?
So this is the existing home on top.
Right.
Essentially, we're removing these 2 stories. We're keeping the garage at the right side there. And the
Right.
rendering below shows the proposed 2-story brand-new building on top of the existing foundations we were trying to repurpose.
Yep.
However, we are expanding new foundations at the rear yard with respect to the new form, new volume.
What would the roof look like?
I do
can't
have
see
a
it from-
rendering
yeah.
that shows, just bear with me. These renderings show the roof. We can zoom out. Thank you so much. So you can see.
If you could just please use the microphone.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you.
So you can see here the roof. The roof will essentially. Let me show you the other side actually. So guys, the roof will be accessed. I'm sorry. The roof will be accessed via the stair, which is a spiral stair from the balcony at the rear.
Do you have a streetscape of the other
Yeah.
homes?
Yeah.
Yes, I will go to that page momentarily.
Yeah, take your time.
These are photographs of existing homes.
Yeah, we see it. That's good.
So these are photographs of existing homes. There are two of them that have low roofs, which are similar to the character of the proposed home. So it's this one I'm pointing with the laser at the bottom here, and there's also this one here. So these are not as low. Of course, our roof has a parapet. However, there are two homes which are similar in typology to the proposed home, not necessarily, of course, a flat roof.
Which are the two homes directly adjacent to you on the pictures?
So let me just point. So adjacent would be 76 Park Avenue to the right and 86 Park Avenue to the left.
Those are very similar.
Yeah. Did you take any inspiration from them for the massing of yours?
Pardon?
Did you take any inspiration from those two for the massing of yours? I mean, they're kind of similar.
They are very similar indeed, yes. Actually, I have a drawing of those two homes at the... So I've actually drawn you can tell how similar they are. That's an excellent point.
Oh, that's the sketch.
Yes.
Right.
This is the actual, this is a depiction of what so we try to at least match the eave or get close to the eave of the existing homes, of course, minus the hip roof, if you will, on both of them. So at least we try to at least align the upper portion with respect to the frontage. And as we are aware, we're exceeding 30% of the revision would be over 30%, which, we would seek your approval with respect to the bulk as it relates to the delta between the existing condition and the proposed, and if it does, and it already does exceed the 30%, it would need your consent to the proposed massing and the bulk.
It's like 100%, isn't it?
Yeah, this is a tear down rebuild, so we would consider this new construction.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's way more than 30. Okay. You got any comments, guys?
So you're proposing, instead of doing a typical roof like all of the neighbors, that you're going to have a flat roof with a parapet with the lounge area?
Correct, as per the owner's request. We were aware it's a bit, with respect to the vernacular, to the character of the neighborhood, the only similarities or similes we found were, again, this home here, 88 Park Avenue, and 79 Park Avenue, that's as close as we got. Those are the only two homes within, certain distance that match the bulk and the volume. So we took that license to maybe push it a little bit further and just go with a flat roof. However, the parapet, the form of the parapet is going to be very simple, clean line. It's not going to have any ornate, crowns or anything like that. It will be very minimal.
Mm-hmm.
I have the elevations here. I can quickly.
Yeah, can you flip to those? You can, flip to the rendering and elevations, please.
So as you can see here on proposed elevations, the upper portion, or the frieze, if you will, the frieze is very simple, minimal, and clean. It doesn't have a large crown, so it doesn't really accentuate more of this, simple shape. It just keeps it very plain. So we're not trying to actually enhance it that much. They just like the very simple shape. They like minimalism, so the pure form that we're proposing here just has very simple shaped windows. These are casements, Pella lifestyle. Some of them are fixed, some of them are transoms, but the similar language, similar rhythm of window will be carried throughout the building. So we try to keep it as simple as possible. I think that's what I'm headed towards here.
I have two questions concerning the roof. First, one reason I guess that most people have roofs that slant is because we do get snow. Is this going to, I assume it would be constructed in a way that it would be able to hold a heavy snow load?
Yes, we'll definitely put that into account. We've already designed the structure. We have a structural diagram that's shown in 3 dimensions here. I'll quickly jump to that. standard wood frame, balloon frame design, as we refer to in the industry. So it essentially has bearings at the perimeter, and there is a central bearing point as well with point loads, moving the loads down to the basement, tributary loads from the roof, and then we have also sending the loads to the perimeter as well to foundation walls. So with respect to structure, we should be okay.
How is it going to drain? Are there gutters, or leaders and gutters that?
Correct. So
Yep.
we're going to propose these slightly different integral gutters that are actually situated inside the facade system, and the scuppers, those will be inside, so these will not be visible. As they're going for minimalism, they try not to have any added ornate details to the facade.
Okay. And my other question concerning the rooftop is, as depicted, it's, you know, it's obviously all this additional usable space, but there is no umbrella or awning or anything on it right now.
Absolutely not. As the owners are aware that if they would like to consider the shade area, they have a full veranda at the underside of the balcony, so they will never have an umbrella up there. That's just for, I guess the kids like to look at the stars in the evening, so that's basically what they're going to do, just start gazing. But they will never have any umbrellas, no other furniture up there, just, you know, some low furniture which would be way below the parapet. We're proposing the parapet to be close to 40, maybe 42 inches, so it can conceal most of activities, if any.
What is that on the front elevation that's projecting above? Oh, that's a person? On
Yes,
the right-hand
person.
side? That, right, on top of that,
It's a
there's...
person,
That's a
yeah.
person, I
Yes.
can't see it from here.
So
Got it.
that's a person, I guess, up to this height, you would see the person standing up. And I'm glad I'm showing this full disclosure, so we're aware that you will see the person standing versus seated, you probably will not see them.
Well,
Very low.
staring up, the perspective's a little bit different than what you drew there, isn't it?
Yes. Definitely, and I'm really glad I'm showing it full.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
can
it's
actually
really-
see the person going up the stair here, so.
The view is up.
What's the height of the parapet going to be? Or what are you
So it's
proposing?
about 40 inches with a stone coping.
40?
40. The minimum is 36 per code, but we'd like to go a little bit higher so we can conceal visually, so at least at street level, when you're looking up, you don't see anyone. As much as possible, of course. I'll show you the other rendering.
Given us quite a predicament, you know?
I guess just for
I
starters.
said you've given us quite a predicament.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Just for starters, are there any regulations regarding rooftop amenities for residential areas?
That's something I would need to consult with the building inspector on. I don't know what the uniform code provides in the residential code for roof spaces, but we could certainly look into it for your next meeting. I mean, it is something they would certainly have to address for a building permit, but if you'd like to know, we can prepare that for you.
Yeah, because I think that's a really important one here, because there's a lot of space up there. And it's certainly unconventional, but I do like the approach that you're taking, this sort of minimalist approach, and also maximizing the amount of usable space. You know, it's not like anything else not quite like anything else around it, but it has its virtues.
I would ask the same question for exterior stairways. I don't know if there's a single house, not that I would know, but exterior stairs on at residential houses in this entire town. In that sense, those are spiral staircases going from one level to the next to the roof.
Yes, thank you. I mean, that's an excellent point. I mean, with respect to, you know, how we would conceal this, you know, the spiral, we can also go with the linear stair. We were just trying to make the smallest stair visible. So that's why we went with a simple cylinder, if you will. We can actually add some vertical lines so we can actually make it more like a shape, like a volume, versus, so we can actually remove, so you don't see the shadows of the steps going up. We can actually make it more concealed so you don't see it. However, from the front yard, you may not ever probably see these stairs at all. These will be experienced from an apartment building. At the rear yard, we have an apartment building, so they may actually see these stairs from the apartment building. That's full disclosure. I did actually look, I went as close as I can to the building. I was looking to see if then the challenge would be just to make the stair very subtle and very simple, very minimal. I did consider to put the stair at the interior, but it took so much space from the kids' bathroom that we kind of elected to go with the stair outside to allow the kids to have the additional bathroom. That was the only reason we put outside.
It could make it difficult to get any large furniture up onto the roof as well, if that's
Right.
your...
Yeah, no, absolutely. It does have its challenges. This is a 5-foot diameter spiral, which meets current building code. It's per code. So, but to your point, to carry furniture up there, you would need skilled people, to say the least.
So as you said, you put the stair outside to have a bathroom inside.
I'm
As
sorry?
you said, you put the stair outside to use the space inside.
Basically, that was the only reason we ended up with a spiral outside. I had a stair at the interior, and they said we want the bathroom. So can you remove the stair to give us the bathroom and a closet and also a laundry closet, a laundry closet on the second floor and the bathroom.
Does that go to floor area?
Yep.
Is that included in the square feet of the home, that area of the stair outside?
No,
No,
it's not.
It's outside.
correct.
Okay.
Really trying to be minimal by maximizing.
Yeah.
They squeezed every inch into this. And we planned it for about 4 months. We sketched it many times, and this is basically what we came up with at the end of the exercise. So.
Okay. The one thing that, I mean, I'm okay with it. It's just, you did do that sketch, flip back to the sketch of the adjacent that you made of this and then the two adjacents. Right. It would be useful to see that embellished a little bit with actually what's there in the two adjacents. Like, we're flipping to the streetscape here, looking at that and trying to get a feel for what's there. Right. It would be better if we had something a little more to understand how it's going to fit into with the adjacents.
Sure.
I think the Architectural Review Board would like that also.
What was that?
I think the Architectural Review Board would like that also.
Yes,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I'd be willing to, well, you guys, would we be willing to see that, but let this go to architectural review? Well, it's not till September for the AR.
Correct, that's right. The ARB won't meet again until the beginning of September.
Oh. Do we want him to come back and show us a better streetscape before he goes to ARB?
Well, I think any way you slice this is going to look different than the other. You can see very well what the house on the left looks like here. With the benefit of that drawing and this photograph, you can see pretty well what it looks like. And the house on the right is fairly nondescript. The subject house itself, it's nothing special. This is, what's proposed to be built is something that is different. As I said, it has its virtues. But I don't think looking at a streetscape is going to change that any more than what you have here. It's still going to look different no matter what. How you present it, and the question is, is that a game stopper or is that acceptable? And I don't know if there's any member of the public who has an opinion on that, but...
Yeah, let's do that. We're going to see if there's any neighbors in the audience. So I make a motion to open the public hearing application 25-09, 80 Park Avenue.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Nope, no neighbors. You did notice everyone, didn't you?
This is for preliminary review. It's okay to open the public hearing. It was on the website, it was on the agenda, but because it needs the ARB referral, this is proceeding just as a preliminary review.
We didn't issue mailings, so the neighbors were not notified. This is just our first time meeting
I
the
see.
board. This is just for your consideration at this point,
Yeah.
before we go to ARB and then get their comments.
Yeah, I was just going to...
Just to see if you have any concerns, anything that may...
Yeah, I have to
Or-
just be honest on this one. It's very in your face. It doesn't fit with any of the existing stuff in the neighborhood. It's very modern looking. I wouldn't feel comfortable having people 40 feet in the air above me as a neighbor looking down. spiral staircases, streetscape aside, I would personally it just doesn't fit with the character of the neighborhood. I'm very sorry. I mean, it's nice in its own way. I just don't think it fits Eastchester.
Mr. Chairman?
Thank you.
I was just going to suggest, if this is only a preliminary review and they're going to have to come back anyway,
Yeah.
you may want to just have them do that streetscape because it just may
Yeah.
make you lean one way or another if they're coming back anyway.
Right. Is there some way, I know this is sort of sacrificing your architectural principle, is there any way to sort of soften it with landscaping or anything to
Oh, yes, of course.
take away
Yes,
from,
yes, we can.
to get your eye to, because we're staring at it dead on? And there's no way around it, as Mr. Nemersek said, there's no way to deny it, but maybe if
Of course, we
you
can
put some
screen it, we can
landscape to
propose
sort
this-
of
Yes, absolutely.
picture frame it rather than just put it out there as a sore thumb?
Yes, we'll provide some landscaping for the next review to, just to your point, to soften, and this is definitely.
Yeah.
I
I don't like to tell people they can't make their house a certain way. That's why I'm very torn with it. I'm just suggesting that it's
There's no doubt about it.
really sticks out.
It
And
is-
your
it is-
point
it
about
is-
being 40 feet up looking down is kind of, if you're the neighbor, do you really
Yeah,
want
I don't
that?
know.
That's-
We're ready for this review.
It's
to
very
be-
imposing on people if they're barbecuing in their yard, having, and I'm sure the kids will enjoy it, but I don't think it's just going to be used by kids looking at the stars, honestly. I'm
And the
sure
ki-
they'll be
The kids will
partying out
become
there.
teenagers.
Yeah.
That's obvious, right? Have you done a study if there's a single residential house in this town that has a amenity roof?
I just don't think
guess?
it's the vibe for the town, having a rooftop thing. It's very out of character, in my opinion,
Unusual.
but.
No, thank you. It
Yeah.
is unusual. We were ready for these comments to
Yeah.
be very direct with you.
Yeah.
And I actually told the owner like, many times, are you sure? Sure, and then.
It's also, I wonder when people get the variance in the mail, if it says it's something like, an addition will be made or something, it's a little misleading if they don't know the scope of the addition.
Well, we don't know the answer as to whether this is governed by some building regulation.
As far as the
We will
rooftop?
look into what the
Yeah.
residential code requires in terms of the required height,
Yes.
whether it's,
Like a
I do
parapet
not
height,
think it's
yeah.
prohibited outright to have a roof deck.
It's not prohibited outright.
Right.
Okay.
But the parameters we can look into.
Yeah, and I would simply add as well that, for example, if you look at the subject site, and let's say somebody next to you was doing a building, I wouldn't want this to be the comparable for keeping in line with the other houses in the neighborhood. At some point, change is a good thing.
I have a question. with
If you want
respect-
them all to look like that, though, that's the.
No, I'm just saying, I don't want, if you look at the subject house, there's not much artistic merit there.
Change could be good
Yeah.
for some others, yeah.
So
Sorry,
you have to balance it. I'm in agreement on that.
In terms of safety, my question is,
Yes.
you talked about drainage and its ability to withstand the load from the snow. My question is, if you get a large enough snow up there, a foot of snow, a particularly large storm, what do you do with that snow in the winter? Are you throwing it over the side? I mean, it would be an issue I think you may want to also look into, because it's a very different style of, it's essentially a bucket on top of the house that can
Yeah,
trap.
a slow draining bucket.
snow
You could-
or
you could-
ice.
You could heat the roof. You
Yes,
could heat the roof and melt it, I would guess. That's what you do.
absolutely.
It'd be treated like a
We can also
commercial roof.
trace the roof as well. It can be traced as well electrically. We can, melt the snow faster.
Yeah,
We'll
I
look into
guess.
those
But I
electrical-
don't, although it's a good point, I think we have to rationalize or negotiate the appearance. It's definitely a consideration what you said. I'm sure there's all things you could do to carry the snow, and whatever it is, they'll do it. It's more, I think I'm just have to wrestle with this a little
And
bit
just to
more.
point out, because this is a tear-down rebuild, we have referred it to our consulting civil engineer to look at the stormwater and other aspects of the plan. So Mr. Bollender has reviewed the plan, if you have any
Received
questions for
comments
him.
today. Yes,
Yeah.
thank you for your comments. So we did receive them today, and my
So-
engineer, Bill Elliott, will be reviewing as well.
And I do think it would be a good idea to get it before the ARB as soon as possible as well, because we do have a board dedicated specifically to among other things, items like aesthetics and,
But would
you know,
that be-
that's, they certainly serve under this board.
Yes,
And
they're
they're
a
advisory
referral
to
to-
this board.
correct, right.
But,
But our responsibility is about the character of the neighborhood, right?
Mm-hmm.
If we think this fits in. I agree, ARB should make their recommendations architecturally, but do we, as the planning board, think this home belongs here? Before we move it, we have to answer that. And I'm willing to keep going down the road to see if we do, with no guarantees, to have one more pass. I know you may feel differently. What does everyone else feel?
I don't see it going to the next level until there's a roof.
Until it's what?
Until there's a roof. If you want to look at the skies, put some skylights in.
Could do that as well.
That's just my,
Of
as
course,
one of
thank
the
you. I
members
mean,
of this
these are-
board.
I'm wondering if also like the rear veranda would be, enough for them to enjoy the outdoor space without having yeah, I understand. I mean, I know things are changing and stuff, and if you look around the neighborhood, the houses have gotten bigger and bolder and everything, but they're, nonetheless, they're, typically keeping the character of siding and stone and stuff like that, and soft lines, I think, for the most part. But it's a tough conversation to have, because I don't think that you should tell someone, no, you can't do that. I don't like that, but I just want to suggest that it's not, in my opinion only, it's not,
I think that's why he's here, to hear what
Yeah.
you have to say.
Design is subjective.
Yeah,
That's why
no,
we're
I
here to
appreciate it.
see,
Thank you.
we're all, we have different preferences. There was some precedence in Eastchester, of course, by,
Is
by the
there,
state.
is there other modernist homes or minimalist
Two of
homes?
them with flat roofs, so,
Yeah.
Can you
And
show
just to piggyback off that point, I think it is worth noting, just as objectively as possible,
Yes, of course.
there were some residential submissions to residents, or households, I should say, that were in favor of this
Oh,
design.
yes, we do have two
Granted, they
letters.
are not, I'll say, directly adjacent within the streetscape, there we go,
Yes.
on 80 Park Avenue, but they are
Yes.
within the vicinity. So to Mr. Nemisek's point, it is something to consider whether or not this might be the first of its
Oh,
type.
absolutely.
Maybe this is a section of Eastchester that tends to favor that sort of design. So again, looking at it individually, you're very talented, it's beautiful.
Thank
But
you,
again, it's
thank
just
you.
something to consider whether or not within this immediate frame, if the
Absolutely.
direct neighbors are in favor of it, or if this kind
We're
of
fully
snowballs
aware
into a
that,
change.
we found the precedents, but those are not in the vicinity. They're not on Park Avenue, they're not close. So it's hard. I
Correct,
mean, even
yeah.
though they're in Eastchester, we find the design precedent, it's hard to make the argument. It's actually close to it, and you're going to experience the same. So as the neighborhoods go through these changes, the vernacular changes, so the modernism will slowly start to seep in the neighborhoods, and then you see these shapes. I just saw a house in Rye, and everyone said, how did this thing get approved in Rye? Everything is so, traditional, and they actually did approve a cube there as well. So it's definitely, it's slowly sort of, we're transitioning into these different design languages and, typologies that we're bringing to the neighborhood. So this one is definitely, to your point, it's definitely, it's almost in your face. So it's so close also on Park Avenue, it's very narrow there. So if we can figure out a way to screen it, of course, with landscaping to soften it a little bit, I would like to do that with next set of renderings for the architecture board, and then come back on end of September, present it to you as well to see how it feels again with some landscaping and some methods.
I would like if you would take a shot.
Yeah.
I mean, based on the comments you've heard, it sounds like we're not going to tell you to go away, don't come back. We're going to ask you to go away, see if you could address some of the concerns, make it soften a little bit. I'm not really crazy about the spiral staircase. Can you do a staircase, like a wood mid-landing staircase, to get the same effect? Just as,
We could change it to a linear staircase, of course. We could change it to a
the
different
spiral
shape.
jumps out at you.
Yeah.
I
we
mean,
can
that's the
try that.
intent, right?
Yes, of course, absolutely. There's different shapes.
A nice tone that would sort of let it,
We can blend it in, if you will, with same finishes, and
Maybe.
then make it more part of the, maybe make it look more like the deck at the rear, or we'll try a different stair, of
yeah,
course.
I'm willing to see.
And this is all up for interpretation, of course. New design language is always up for interpretation of our subjective ideas, and people experience design different ways. It's an emotional experience, that's all it is.
Yeah, but we're Eastchester, so we're used to seeing Eastchester.
Yeah, just
That's
simple.
what we kind of know.
That's
But are there others in town, other homes of a similar design?
We did find two of them
should
that
bring
have
them back.
You should
flat
present
roof.
those.
Yeah.
Can you find them and give us?
We'll
Zero.
have to take photos, and of course, we'll present
Yeah,
those.
I'd
Yeah, that
like
would
to
be
see
good.
it
Absolutely.
In context of the surrounding, just to see, because someone approved it, might have been us.
which I just wish they were close to Park Avenue, to this location, so they can experience the same.
Park Avenue is very unique. There's lots of beautiful homes if you go down there.
Yeah.
They're all similar, but they're also,
Okay. We'll take some
different.
photos.
if you
Okay.
go further down towards Leawood, there's some very beautiful homes.
Sure. We'll make an effort to show you something similar.
Yeah.
It may not be as pure, as simple as this.
Anywhere in Eastchester would be good.
Okay, understood.
Okay.
Great, thank you.
So I think we're done unless there's any other comments. Thank you, Ed. Thank you for your effort and your
Thank you.
receptiveness
Thank you
to
for
our
your time.
comments.
Okay, great.
Great. So you'll be back. Good. Next is an easy one compared to this.
Do you want to refer this to the Architectural Review Board?
No.
No, we're coming back. Okay.
Okay.
So we open the public hearing, right? No comments?
Okay.
Oh, no, there is no public
Good
hearing.
summary,
Just preliminary
yeah.
review. So next application is 25-38, Siwani Country Club.
Good evening, Chairman, members of the Planning Board. My name is Lucia Chiocchio. I'm a partner with Cuddy and Fader, and we're pleased to represent Siwani Country Club. I'm joined tonight by Stephen McGlone, the course superintendent, the project architect, Tony Panza of Rogers McCagg Architects, and the site civil engineer, Zach Pearson from Insight Engineering. I'm going to start with a little bit of background and then turn it over to Tony to walk you through the plan. So in this project, Siwani is seeking site plan approval for what they're calling their maintenance building or turf care project. We will need a height variance, an area variance for height for accessory buildings. So we would ask that the planning board refers to the ZBA to seek those variances at tonight's meeting. As you may know, Siwani has been in existence for over 100 years here in Eastchester, providing services and activities, golf, swimming, tennis, paddle tennis, and hosting several functions, including some town-owned functions. It is classified in the R20 residential zoning district, but because its use predates that designation, it is considered a legally existing non-conforming use. This status was established back in 2008 when Siwani received approval for renovations to its pool and its paddle tennis courts. And it was confirmed again in 2018 when Siwani received approval for renovations to the clubhouse and the construction of a golf services building. And that golf services building was considered an accessory structure, and a height variance was needed for that building, and that was granted as well back in 2018. So here we're looking at the northern section of the property. It's about 115 acres total, the total property. We're talking about the corner in the northern part. To the east of this section is California Road. To the north is a residential zoning district. This is where the maintenance activities for Siwani take place. The proposal is to remove the structures that are there now and construct 3 new maintenance buildings. And the idea here is to bring those maintenance activities and storage of materials more indoors and move some of that activity away from that residential zoning district on that side. It's important to note that no activities are changing. So whatever they're doing to maintain the golf course now is what they'll be doing when this project is complete. It's also important to note that even though we need a height variance for these proposed buildings, the height of the existing maintenance building would be maintained. So the new maintenance buildings are not going to be any taller than what's there. So with that, I think I'll turn it over to Tony, and I'll ask him to walk you through the plan.
I actually liked when he grabbed the microphone and went up. A little bit easier, I think, to look at the drawings, even though I kind of feel like a nightclub singer with this in my hand like this. Tony Panza, architect for the club, Rogers McCagg Architects. 90% of the work that we do is for golf clubs. Turf care facilities, we'll call them instead of maintenance facilities, very important part of the golf course. Maintenance of the equipment that's being used on the golf course, the personnel, storage of fertilizers and the such. The first image that you have here is an aerial site, and the green shaded, the green shaded building here is the existing, it's the main building that the admin staff is in. There's repair that's happening in there and storage. And then there's a few other items that exist on the site, and it's more of an accumulation over the past, I wouldn't say 100 years for this location. The one building, the CMU building, 60 years old. So there's a CMU building over here. It's actually missing one of the walls, about 60 years old, that has some storage of some firewood and sand and other things. There's a lean-to back over here. There's a hoop structure over here for storage. There's a container over here. It's basically, over the years, as the building didn't expand, they gained a container and they gained this. And because they have equipment and they don't want it sitting outside, they're trying to get it out of the weather. They're trying to protect it. So what we're looking at here is, after 60 years, finally saying, let's take a holistic look at the area. Let's put the proper buildings in for what the program is that they would be doing. Let's get rid of the container, the hoop building, the lean-to, and other items that are currently happening outside. And we can develop and we can use the best practices that are available today. I'll run through a couple of those with you. And at the same time, we can deal with the drainage associated with the whole site. And Zach is going to come up and talk to you about that. While doing so, we want to understand that we have neighbors, and we can talk about, Stephen can mention the relationship with the neighbors, that and that when we develop this new layout, we're developing it away from the neighbors. We're looking to generate a courtyard which is hidden by the building. So I'm going to flip. Pop this off. Oh, it's flipped? It's the aerial. Whoop, it's not there. Zach, I'm going to need your help. It's not there. Going to go to a simplified drawing, so no aerial on this one here. So the existing building, what we're going to be doing is adding an addition onto the existing building to gain some admin space that you'll see. And then we have a new building back over here called the Environmental Center. And then we have a new building here, which is just called the Storage Barn. As Lucia mentioned, this existing building, which is to remain, that ridge is the ridge that we're using to continue here. The buildings that we're placing are on the far side of that, so that the neighbors won't see that we're putting in buildings. The ridge of this building is lower than this. The ridge of this building is similar to that. Okay? I'm going to run and just give you a little bit of what happens in each of the buildings. The current building is also, it's a metal building. It has a metal roof that's green. It has a metal facade. We're looking to keep that same architectural identity happening with the new buildings. So this is the Environmental Center. There's a little bit of there's an open pad that exists over here, and then a bunch of bays. You see some doors, and What happens in here is that there's sprayers that apply fertilizer to the golf course. This becomes their home, and the fertilizer stays in here. So everything is kept inside this building. It's a contained building. It has an epoxy floor. Nothing can leach out. It also has this pad on the outside, and that's a pitched pad with a roof over it. This is one of the most modern items that we're adding to golf courses. It has a CarbTrol system, which is a carbon-based pool filter system. That's the easy way to talk about it. Vehicles come back from the golf course, and you can think of maybe at home, you mow your lawn, you got clippings on your mower, and what do? You take the blower out, or you take the hose out and you hose it off, and then it just runs off. Well, they're cutting grass every day. They put it on the pitched pad. They hose it off. It goes into the catch basin. It goes into the pool filters. And that same exact water is used to continually spray the equipment, continually wash the equipment. There's no connection to the outside drainage from this building. So everything is contained directly within inside of it. Nothing leaves it. So washing, now you're conserving water, and none of that water is going into or leaving the building, not going into the catch basins at all. The second new building is just a large open space for storage of equipment inside. There's bins that are on one end of it, which you can see here from these doors. They'll be storing top dressing or sand or some lumber that's used up at the clubhouse and fires. But that's all that it is. This is the view from the golf course. We don't have any of the trees on it. We're just showing the contours here. They'll be certain that they won't be looking at it from the golf course. And then the floor plan here is of the existing building. The existing building is this location here, and what we're extending out is basically to modernize the building. It's the same amount of staff. We just want to be able to give them more than a toilet, more than a shower, and a nicer place. You can come on down for a visit to see the lunchroom isn't that great right now. It's really just trying to bring it up to nicer amenities, more safer for staff and everyone else. That's a run through of the buildings to make things a little bit easier. Hopefully in the approval process, we have pitched roofs, we have no rooftop decks, we have the same number of employees, so we're not increasing our sewage flow. Thank you.
Can you, before you go,
Good evening, Zach Pearson with Insight. I'll just run through the site plan quickly.
Why don't you introduce yourself?
Zach Pearson, Insight Engineering. We're just walking through the site plan quickly. Same access off of California Road as currently exists. We're not proposing a new curb cut. We're going to use the existing curb cut there. We're going to have some landscaping on the golf course side, also the California Road side. There is a spot here where we did not show landscaping. That neighbor had requested that the board take the trees down in that location already. They have solar panels on their roof, so we don't want to replant the trees that the club has already taken down. So I just wanted to get that out there. Again, formalized parking spaces. Tony had mentioned before, existing building in the same location. Drainage-wise, this is pretty unique. This whole site kind of sits in a bowl. Everything from the property line kind of drains back towards the building. There is a low spot, if this is the existing building, just to the south of it. So we're collecting all of this water here. There's an existing conveyance system that comes out to the golf course. There's a stream channel that comes through the course to the south and eventually crosses California Road, further down. We're proposing stormwater treatment in accordance with town and state standards. Other utilities on the site include new water service connection with a hydrant out on California Road. That was requested by the fire department. There's an existing sewer service line that leaves the property just to the north. We're proposing, same access point to leave. Again, no increase in flow. It's same amount of employees as currently exists.
So you did say landscaping was going to be around the new. Could you flip back to the sheet that showed the landscaping? You're responsible for landscaping?
Yes.
So what, the ones next to the neighbor are the ones that are removing, the ones that, yeah, those guys?
Those would be new.
Those are new.
Here, there's some new here. The ones where there's nothing, this is the house with the solar panel.
That's the solar. So I was going to say, my first recommendation is to put landscaping between the existing home and this, but clearly we're not doing that, which is good. What's the view? The view from California, I guess, is that corner right there.
So
Right.
California actually drops down. You know,
really?
the grade change here off of this, you can see it a little bit. You can see it on the contours. The existing contours start to fall away, so you're 2, 4, 6,
too low.
8. This is 10 feet above the road. The road starts to dive here. So you come up to almost the high point's pretty close to this entrance. So once you get to this entrance, this starts to go down, and it starts to come up and then go down the other way. So they're kind of right on the crest.
Yeah, just to the north there is Highland Avenue.
Right, and
That's-
it goes down from
Yeah,
this
and in fact, that,
So
the
this-
homes
there
on the
is-
right are, most of them are right off of Highland, right? Okay.
Yes.
And that's a hill, I know that.
That drops down, correct, yeah. And there's vegetation, there is vegetation out in the right of way as well.
Is that facility right across from Twin Lakes, like where we're looking, the horse
The
stables?
horse place is like right.
I'm just trying to get my
it's a little
bearings of
further
where
to the
that
south.
is.
It's like down over here.
So, okay, so it's past.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
See if it's on the aerial. It may show up on the corner of the aerial.
No.
Not really, no.
It's further down the road as the road goes down. If
No,
you've been-
the horse place is this way.
Well, there's an entrance from Twin Lakes.
Oh, there are two. There are two, actually, yeah.
And if you're familiar with the turn, it's where the police car has been parked for the past.
Yes, that was actually would any of the other water improvements have to redig up California Road? I know they've been dealing with that for many years. Would it add to having to do new improvements on California Road again?
No.
Yeah.
Stephen McGlone, Golf Course Superintendent. I've been in contact with Con Ed throughout their, project the last few years on California Road. They are now about, call it 100 feet from our entrance on California Road, and they're going north, right? That's the 36-inch gas line that's going in. We are not connecting to the gas line. We're standalone propane for our heat and hot water. Our water service that we're going to tap for the hydrant, for our fire suppression system, and for our domestic water feed is going to be on the curb side of their 36-inch line. Does that answer your question?
That was all. Thank you. Yes.
One thing I did want to mention, and didn't mention earlier, was prior to Simon and I filing an application with the town, they did send a letter to the folks in Highland and most affected in this area, letting them know what the project was and providing contact information in case they had any questions. There was no response to that letter. So, and it's been, we did publicly notice this meeting as well, and haven't heard any response to that notice as well.
Okay. I think we've made all the comments. I don't have any more. I'm confident that it's an improvement that's going to be barely noticeable from the street. I mean, it's always like seeing improvements that are well done by the architect. Do you have any other comments,
I just
guys?
have one procedural note to mention. So this is an unlisted action under the State Environmental Quality Review Act, SECRA, so you will need to complete an environmental review before you make a determination. But because of the nature of the variances that we're requesting, and it's an unlisted action, an uncoordinated review is a good idea here, so you can forward it onto the zoning board without making that secret determination right now. I mean, maybe you want to hear some responses to Mr. Bollander's comments before you do that, but that should not hold up the secret determination. I just wanted to point out procedurally that that's something we'll have to address at your next review.
Okay, so we'll address that at the next meeting then?
Right.
Okay. Do we have any comments, guys?
No.
No.
No, but
So
I would
then-
like to hear from Mr. Bolander, if there's anything to comment on.
Is there anything you want to comment on today? Sure. Please, yeah.
Rick Bolander, KSUJ Consulting, and although it looks like a lengthy memo, a lot of the comments are just geared towards kind of tidying up and finalizing the stormwater design. We'll need to go out there and witness the soils testing. One of the comments, which they've obviously kept in mind, is just the view shed of the neighbors, the residents. I guess that'd be to the north of the property. But yeah, really just tidying up, and for site plan set that hasn't gotten its variances yet, they're in very good shape and not really too concerned stormwater-wise. Seems like a very good design. And if the soils testing comes back not great, there's plenty of room to expand on that system. So environmentally, there's really no big concerns. It seems like a very welcome improvement from what's currently there.
Agreed.
Good.
Thank you. So then, this is a public hearing, so I'm going to make a motion to open the public hearing on this application, 2538 Simon Country Club.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Comments from the public? None. So we're leaving that open, and I guess we are going to now forward this to zoning board for the variances? Unless
And
we
to
have-
the Architectural Review Board,
Yeah.
if you're ready
Oh,
to do
yes.
so.
Cool. So I make a motion to refer this application, 2538 Simon Country Club, to the Zoning Board of Appeals for required variances and to the ARB for architectural review, and to keep the public hearing on this application open.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great, thank you. Have a nice summer.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. Have a good summer.
Thanks, Rick.
The next application is 10 Joyce, 25-27.
Good evening, Chairman, member of the boards. My name is Yuri Biba from Brandis Architect, representing on behalf of our client at 10 Joyce Road. This is an existing single-family residence that was built in 1950, and the intent of this project is like to expand and modernize the home in a way that aligns with similar renovations in the neighborhood and surrounding areas. The scope of work is going to include like a two-story addition at the rear of the house, as well raising a bit the front portion of the building because the roof area is very sloped. I'd like to show some photos of the existing. Actually, better is with the existing elevation, where as you can see in the front, it's, the roof is very high, but we cannot really use it because it's just for some low closets on the bedrooms upstairs. So we're just pushing the whole thing up and making a full second floor area. Also, on the second floor, we're going to accommodate like a primary bedroom with walk-in closets and nice bathrooms, new laundry area and stuff. The first floor, we're gonna make a new grate room basically. Show the floor plan real quick. We're going to have a nice open kitchen into the family room, and part of the existing room is going to remain. And let's go back to the renders. In the front, we're going to use basically like a stone and siding, so we're going to keep it very simple in keeping with the neighborhood, and I think it's going to be a good fit for the neighborhood. I'm open to questions.
That's the existing or the rendering, sorry? That's the existing or the rendering?
The existing, let me bring the photos.
That's the rendering, okay.
The existing is this one right here.
I couldn't see it too well. Can we zoom in on it? Just so there's-
Sure, can you put that
On
back
the-
up
on
to
the,
zoom in the rendering? Right?
Yeah, just wanted to see what it looked like.
There you go.
So that existing then has
Yeah, maybe
the
if you could just
trees
move it up a
removed
little higher.
that were previously there, at least a few years ago?
Yeah, I mean.
Okay. No, I just wasn't, they're covering up the whole house on
Yeah, I-
Google.
yeah, I think
It would be a shame not to see the new work with the 4 pine trees.
Thank you.
Right, the site plan should clarify whether those are staying or being removed, those trees.
I'm sorry?
The site plan should
They're already
clarify.
gone.
They're already gone?
Yeah, just the internet's outdated.
Got it.
They were removed before. I'm not sure what happened, but
Okay.
Yeah.
It was a fairly recent picture, so I guess it must have been recent.
we're still putting some hydrangeas and stuff thing. We're trying to make it nicer, but yeah, that's what it was there.
Are we changing impervious? Are we changing impervious surface?
We're just proposing here, like a space here, we're proposing a new patio at the rear, but other than that, we're keeping the existing driveway. We're just reshaping a bit because we're moving the front entrance a bit more to the left, close to the driveway, but we're not changing the curb cut. We're just gonna reshape to connect with the existing one. That's all we're doing.
Reshape as in less?
It was straight before, now we're just like bringing it to connect with it.
Got it. But everything else remains the same?
Yeah, the driveway stays where it is, and only the new part is going to be the patio and the addition, of course.
And the roof area is the same because we're removing and replacing the same area?
Well, yeah, so we're, that's where, let me go to the elevations again. It's going to be a new roof line, because we're going a bit higher. We were at almost 24 feet. We're going at 28 feet higher with a new roof and with a new roof line.
Okay.
But is the footprint of the house itself staying the same? I know you said you're adding a patio to the back, but is the...
Well, we're enclosing this portion on the back with the proposed 2-story addition that we're putting on the
Got
back.
it, okay.
That's the only part.
Okay.
Yeah, that's where the addition is, basically. We don't need any variance, it's everything meets code, so we're staying with the requirements of A5, R5.
Okay, thank you.
Looks like a nice improvement.
Thank you.
This is going to architectural review after this?
Yes.
Yeah.
So we're just going to see if there's any public comments, so don't go anywhere. I make a motion to open the public hearing on application 2527, 10 Joyce.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We will leave the public hearing open and make a motion to refer application 2527 to the ARB for architectural review,
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
You're good to go.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks.
Have a nice summer. The next application is 25-39, 305 White Plains Road. Oh, yes.
ARB, yeah.
Good evening. Jonathan Villani, representing Annunziata Villani Design Consultants for 305 White Plains Road, 305 White Plains Road LLC. This particular project previously received a permit for, it's pretty much a two-phase project. Initially, the owner of the property renovating the existing building, office spaces, no change in use or occupancy, replacing windows, storefront, with the intention of eventually coming before you to present a two-story addition above the existing first floor. During the permitting process, we received the permits for the interior renovation as well as a window replacement, and there already was existing parking underneath the building as well as a driveway in the rear of the building. 100% impervious surface, was no increase in impervious surface, so we rearranged, his desire was to rearrange the parking in the lower level to allow for 8 spots underneath the building. The way we configured the spaces, you turn in, we have enough design parameters as far as 24 between the cars. You could pull in to the left and the right and create 8 parking spaces. Well, 7 with handicap. We have 7 spaces. So in the meantime, this property did not have any site plan approval, so we referred by Carlo to get site plan approval for this rearrangement of parking underneath the building. And that's what I'm presenting here before you today.
Sure. Can you just run us through, mainly we're talking about the cellar, the ground floor stays the same, right?
I'm sorry, say again?
Mainly we're just talking about the cellar, right, where the parking is, that's changing. The ground floor, with the exception of moving partitions around, remains the same, correct?
Correct.
So can you just run us through what's going on?
Yeah, sure. So obviously you're aware, you're familiar with this building on 305 White Plains Road, the existing elevation, canopies with a slanted roof, slate roof on the top. It was 2 offices with storage in the rear. Underneath that storage was roughly 3 parking spaces. I believe they use them to service the cars. And then there was 2 cars in the driveway in the back. I don't know what the occupation was part of this building in the rear. I know it was a hardware store, I believe, or
Cornell's Rentals, yeah.
Yes, rentals. I don't know what they used the back lower part for, but there was a service area in the back with 3 car parking spots as well as 2 in the rear. So the proposed, let me put up the proposed. The proposed was not to change, all we're doing is changing the storefront, keeping the slanted roof, and just renovating the interior, adding bathrooms, renovating the 2 office spaces. One of the office spaces would be occupied by the owner, as well as changing the lower level. I'll put the site plan up so you can see what we're talking about with the site plan. Here we go. So on the lower level, in the front of the building, be slab on grade, but you would pull in and there'd be spots to the right and spots to the left. This is the rear property line. So previously, the building line is right here. So the structure is arranged so that we can make openings so the cars can pull in and pull into the left. So they would be in and outside of the building. It was just to create more parking spaces for his employees on the office level.
So you're basically extending the cellar page up, right?
Well, no, it's still outside, but we created holes we're not expanding the footprint of the building. We created holes in the building. I'll show you the rear elevation so you can see the rear elevation, seeing the holes in the building to allow the parking spaces, the cars to turn out to the rear of the property. Let me see where it is. Yeah, so if you look at the rear elevation, this is the rear elevation, so there's 2 holes. We have steel structure in the building, cutting holes in the back of the building so they're able to pull to the backyard. So not extending the building at all.
But you have to excavate, don't you?
To get the head height for the
I mean, because right now,
we lowered the elevation of the slab in the cellar.
Yeah, it's unclear how that elevation relates to the new retaining wall. A pretty substantial, as I understand it, retaining wall had to be put in.
To lower there was a height difference between the adjacent property and the commercial property. It was dug out roughly 24 inches, I believe.
is there a longitudinal section running from the front to the back?
Not showing that section of the wall reference to the driveway, no.
I think that would help, but maybe if you just go back to the plan to understand it.
Sure. Oh, the site plan?
No,
no, wait.
what you were showing us there, showing the parking spaces and
You have that one.
the one that had the
Yeah, hold on, I
parking
got that one, yeah.
spaces.
Here.
Right.
So the retaining wall is here at the rear of the property and makes an L right here.
But that's existing, that retaining wall?
No, it was actually put in
Put in by who?
by the owner.
Recently?
Yeah, that's the reason for the stop work order. That's why we have the stop work order,
Oh.
for the
Right.
retaining walls.
You didn't tell us that.
Oh.
Oh. So where did the cellar stop now, or before you moved it out?
I'm sorry, say again?
I said the existing cellar stopped where your finger is?
Yeah, the existing building's right here.
Got it.
And this is the rear property line right here.
So you punched holes through the existing wall to get the spaces in, built a retaining wall there.
To be able to turn the cars
Yeah,
into the
okay.
parking area here.
Yeah, pretty much all that work is at least substantially completed, is that
The
right?
retaining walls are, yes.
Well, you also demoed a bunch of stuff, right?
Well, with the windows at the existing
No,
building.
no, I mean, in that wall, you cut openings in it.
In the back of the wall,
Yeah,
correct.
That, the demo.
Right, and under the building was excavated, as I
And,
understand it,
yeah,
from the
I got
building
it.
department.
So the demo that's issued, does that specify what you're demoing, or any demo goes with
The way I
demo?
understand it from the building department, there was no permit issued for this scope of work. It was all internal in the existing space,
On the first floor?
right? So there is a stop work order, yeah.
Yes, because it extended past an envelope of the building.
I
We
think
were
you were
working
supposed to
inside the building.
I think you were supposed to come back.
I'm sorry?
I think you were supposed to come back before you started doing the work in the cellar. I
Yes.
think
It
that's
was,
the
it
issue,
was,
right?
it was done after the fact, correct. That's why we're here now. Originally, our permits were just inside the building envelope, and once it spilled outside the building envelope.
Yeah. Wow. So when we look at parking like this, like, I don't know if it works from a parking point of view. We do parking studies, stall spaces, turning radius. Is that supposed to be done for even something of this character?
Right, so we should at least understand how large the opening is, what the maneuverability will be between the spaces, how cars will move in and out, if the opening is sufficient for 2 cars, and if not, how will cars
Yeah, there
make
needs to
that
be some
conflict, right?
circulation
Well,
study.
Yeah.
Well, there's parking standards. This is all design standards. The garage door is small. We can make it 16 feet, but the backup for this type of parking is 24 feet. So the parking spaces are adequate size. You're able to back up because there's 24 feet in between the parking spaces here. There's actually 27.3, so you're able to back up and pull out. We just have to make the garage door 16 feet. There's adequate space to maneuver in the building.
Right, it would just be nice to have it shown.
Sure. I could do arrows, and I've done traffic plans before.
No, I know you have, but we haven't. So either we believe you or we get someone
Yeah,
to
sure,
review
yeah.
this.
Sure, so we have not referred this to our consulting civil engineer or our traffic engineer. We certainly can if you'd like that. The building inspector has been reviewing this, so he can also review it to ensure the circulation.
I mean, is that enough to let our building inspector review it, or does it need to go to our consultant?
Sure, we can send it to the consultant if that would be your preference. I think it is important to understand how the cars will maneuver in and out, given the configuration.
But I'm saying, if we were to ask the applicant to show the turning radiuses all, and then give it to our staff to
Sure.
review it, would that?
We could evaluate
Are
it,
they
yes.
qualified to do that? Or do we
Yes.
need to bring?
We could, and if we saw it and there were questions at that point, we could say, you know what, this looks like we should refer it to our consultant. We can review it in the first instance and then evaluate it
I think we
from
should
there.
try that.
Sure. But I think, in consultation with the building inspector, we prepared a memo asking for some additional information to be shown on the plan, and I think you'd at least want to see that before considering anything further. We should know how tall the retaining wall is.
Yeah, I mean, that's the other thing.
They're very addressable comments. I read the memo from the plan, from the.
Bless her.
I read
sorry,
the
say
memo.
again.
I read the memo. It was very addressable comments. I can add information to the drawings.
So I guess my concern, being an engineer, is that you cut a hole in a wall and putting a bunch of stuff in and then built another retaining wall, and it's your signature on it? And it's your signature on it, right?
Well, there's a whole nother. There's a set of structural drawings
There's
here.
structural drawings.
Oh, and there's shop drawings that were already.
I mean, but they're kind of confusing.
Yeah, there was.
I
well,
tried to make sense of it, and it doesn't make any sense.
There was a set of drawings drawn, and there were after subsequently there was a set of shop drawings done for the steel. We submitted 2 sets. One of the shop drawings nullifying details that were on this drawing, so I didn't want to be redundant. I use those drawings as the structural drawings.
Right, but I did look at them and I'm confused. And it's not because I don't know what I'm looking at, it's because they're confusing.
The structural drawings?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, stuff crossed out, pieces of steel, there's no section through it. There's no
On these?
The ones that were submitted.
Yeah, that's why I mean, there's a subsequent set of drawings of steel shop drawings that,
Can we clean those up to make them,
to coincide? Yeah, I've submitted both, so I didn't,
Say
we
that
did a
again?
whole set of separate drawings for structural steel.
I don't want them. I want something we could read. I can't understand the drawings that submitted, is what I'm saying.
Okay.
Can we get something that is a little more user-friendly so that we all can understand it?
Sure.
I mean, I certainly could study them for hours, but I don't think I should have to do that.
Sure.
Can we cut a section so we understand what's going on at the wall? Can we show the design of the wall, design of the footings, all that kind of stuff?
Sure.
To make it a little more, since we're asking you to come back, right?
I think so. I just don't think that the plan as currently proposed shows enough information for you to really evaluate what's going on there.
Yeah. I mean, that's my opinion from looking at the drawings. And also, are we okay? I guess this happens all the time, right? Or unfortunately, it happens that applicants do more and then they're approved to do, and then they come back and ask if it's okay. Usually it's more architectural, right? This is a little more unique. I mean, if what you come back with represents what there and we approve it, then I'm okay to continue.
Sure.
I think that's what I'm,
But you're not compelled to approve anything that was constructed without a permit. I mean,
I'm sorry?
you're not forced to approve something constructed without a permit, of course. That goes without saying.
yeah.
You know, so.
Yeah, I don't think you keep working until we get approved the new set of plans,
That's why I submitted, I'm assuming, yeah.
until we see them. What do you guys think?
What is the typical process, just from my understanding? It's to this board or to the town, to the building department or the inspector or the engineer?
It comes to us.
Yeah,
first.
right now there's a stop work order until site plan approval is obtained.
Yeah, from just a whole, what are you building? It's on the drawings. Are we comfortable if they submitted and said, yeah, okay, keep going, or do we want more definition of what's there and then let the building department take over? I'm saying I don't really know what's there. And plus, we're asking to come back and present something about the parking, what it looks like, how they're making the turn, so I think he's coming back anyway, because we're not comfortable that we understand about the parking enough.
Right.
So we asked him to prepare something that he could submit to the building department for review. Is there any way he could do the same thing with what I'm asking? As far as the drawings that he submitted that I said that were inadequate, can we ask the building department to look at those and see if they define the existing conditions any better so he doesn't wait all summer long? Or does it really have to come back to us?
First, for the site plan approval, the applicant would have to come back. I don't think that the building permit for this work can proceed because it requires site plan approval.
Because of what?
Because it requires site plan approval. As to the structural drawings, you know, to have the building inspector review that to see if they're adequate, he could do that, but he couldn't issue any permits. The stop work order will have to stay in place until site plan approval is granted.
Oh.
Yeah.
And we haven't done that. That's why we're here, right?
Just for clarification, the structural steel, as far as structural steel was concerned, was approved and given to the building department. It's already installed, as far as the structural steel in the building.
Yeah, the building department has not signed off on it. I do not know that they are sure of the structural integrity of the retaining wall.
Who is that? Oh, it's about.
Oh, no, I'm not talking the
Right.
retaining wall, I'm talking the steel. The steel in the building.
So you're saying this, the inside was designed, submitted,
Signed,
approved,
signed
being
off
built.
on,
Whoa, approved by us?
the structural steel for the building.
No, approved by the planning board?
Building department, by the building
Yeah,
department.
okay, but we never saw it. Oh, but
The structural steel doesn't have anything to do with the site
Yeah,
plan.
what we're looking at is more of the reconfiguration of this parking area, the expansion
Yeah,
of it.
it's-
The structural steel is a part of the building
It's not.
permit, but.
It's about the
correct.
changes that were made to the plan.
Exactly right.
Got it. I guess what we're saying is that we don't really care about the structural steel. Your guys should know how to do it.
Okay.
It's that you changed the plan of the basement. We only saw it now, and now we have to approve it.
Yeah, no, I understand. I was just getting a little confused because the structural steel is already in and approved and been,
Inside the
reviewed.
building's
Right.
fine,
Yeah,
that's
inside
what
the
you
building's
did, now you started doing to the
So,
exterior.
and literally, and when it comes to structural, I understand, I'll show you which I did draw a section of the retaining wall that was poured because I made them dig it out and look at it and check it. In reference to that, and I'll draw a section through that showing it relative to the building, longitudinally, right? So you can see that reference and the elevation difference and all the information that was put on the memo I can answer. and come back with a bigger site plan showing the traffic. Because from a design standard, if you make in my eyes, not yours because you have to give me the approval, but in my eyes, if you widen the door to 16 feet, all the other numbers work as far as backing up, turning radius, parking spots, width of parking spots, is handicap spot. And it's not really I mean, there's no much more space to be questionable, right? There's nothing else but that space that's here, right? We're dealing with finite numbers here, so we had to make it work.
What about the required number of spaces? Is that correct? Is it based on floor area?
A variance for the number of spaces hasn't been identified, so I can double check, but I believe that is conforming. It is just a matter of the configuration.
Handicap not required, or it is there?
They are proposing a space.
You have a handicap spot? Yeah. I see it.
Handicap spot is there. Also, the pre-existing building was, and this is, I guess, decided by your board, is the existing building was non-conforming as far as parking. We increased the number of spaces, but we didn't change the use, square footage, or the occupancy. So is that determined a variance or not? I don't know.
Usually a change of use would trigger it. Just a continuation of a non-conforming use doesn't require the increase in the parking. You can become less non-conforming, but just changing the user wouldn't. We base these things with existing buildings when the use changes.
We thought we were doing a good thing by just increasing the number of spots, because there was only 4 or 5 spots max previously.
Yes.
Yeah, generally, if you reduce the level of nonconformity, that is a good thing. But it's just when you
Right,
take
but
it
you need
into
to
your own
understand
hands.
exactly what's being, you need more specificity to evaluate what's being proposed.
Yes, that's right.
Just have to propose that, yeah.
Do you have the variances? No, right?
I'm sorry?
Have you applied for variances?
No, we haven't. We didn't determine whether variances, Carlo and I didn't determine that variances were going to be needed due to the no increase in square footage, no change in use, configuration of the spaces stayed the same. We just increased the parking. We increased the parking. We didn't decrease the parking. It was already pre-existing nonconformity. So it wasn't determined to need, as far as I was.
Yeah, so site plan approval is required because of the reconfiguration of the parking area, the new retaining wall, just the
Right.
changes to the site in general. So it's not necessarily true that a variance will necessarily be
Right.
required, but those changes require site plan approval.
Okay.
We will be in phase 2 requesting a parking variance if we ever get there.
So I imagine you want the stop work lifted so you could keep working. And in order to do that, we have to approve your...
I'm not, yeah, I don't necessarily even, I don't think I'm willing to wait for the parking situation to pan out. But if we can continue the building and not touch the outside beyond the building footprint.
Is it it's a full stop work order? Is
I mean,
that
that's
what it
really
is?
something for the building inspector to decide.
Right, okay, so if
Yeah,
it doesn't
that's
have to do with us, then he could decide if it's a full to a partial, whatever could proceed, and then we're doing a site plan review whenever it's ready.
Correct.
Yeah, it's also, I told my client he shouldn't have went and dug the back and all, we went through this whole thing already, but I said, okay, now we have to take 2 steps back. He understands that. I'm trying to proceed in the right manner now moving forward, especially since he wants to ask for a variance later on. I said, you can't present it like this way and not. So I just want to see if we were able to, plus the building's an eyesore now, so is there any way to stop work order on the underground work outside and continue with the building part of it, at least get the windows in and make it look presentable, because right now there's no windows in there.
Yeah, it's an eyesore right now.
It's an eyesore.
Is that up
But that's
for
not your
this-
call, that's the
not
building
for this
inspector's
board
call.
to-
Right.
What's that?
Whether any portion of the stop work order can be lifted is a decision to be made by the building inspector. Your board really doesn't have the authority to lift a
No.
stop work order or a portion of it.
We're just here to approve the site plan, because it's the first time we've seen
Sure,
it.
your recommendation wouldn't hurt, though.
Yeah, I guess we can approve a site plan for something that's yet to be finalized. So it'll be approval of site plan dependent on Carlo's review of whatever documents he's going to give forth about the parking, or
Well, do you feel like I mean,
approve the parking?
the way I hear it, you want this application to come back to see additional information on the layout.
Yeah, but in September, or we also want him to keep moving so it doesn't sit there.
Yeah, there's no mechanism for the site plan to continue a review without your board meeting.
Right.
I don't know that there's much more building permit review to be done until the site plan is approved.
Oh.
Yeah, the building inspector would have to make the determination as to whether it can go forward. I mean, for all the same reasons you just presented to us, I would think you would want to present to the building inspector.
Yeah, if you could convince him on your own that you want to continue, that we have no say, which is the site plan guys, but from our point of view, if he can allow you to keep at least doing interior work and stop working on the cellar space, that's...
No, I'm sure there's a way of, because that bottom floor, that cellar floor can totally be abandoned and everything can continue on the first and other spots, at least get the building at a presentable level. And then, and I don't mind, definitely want to come back and present.
Put windows,
information.
are windows part of the application? Are the new windows, you demoed part of the wall and there's windows missing? Are they on this plan?
They're on this plan, yes.
So that's part of the first floor work?
Yes.
So if he says yes to first floor work, the boarded up windows go away, real windows go in, you keep working, come back in September, give it to us, we approve it, and then you go back to the cellar?
Yeah.
That's the plan?
Okay. Yeah, that would be a great plan.
Okay, so this is a public hearing. So I make a motion to open public hearing, application 25-39, 305 White Plains Road.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
No comments. So then...
We'll leave it open. Right?
Yeah, leave it open. Yeah, good luck.
Add information, more clarity, come back next.
Yeah, and we'll review and see what we think about the site plan.
In September.
Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Great.
Last application is 25-40 Crema Cafe.
Still don't know what it's going to be, though.
Do you have your site plan? You don't need one? Okay.
Any espresso from the cafe? No?
Any espresso? I need bourbon, not espresso.
Could have used that when we started, since you were sitting here the entire time.
That's what we really need, not a coffee. Right, ever since the first application. Yeah. Always good to see you, John.
Yeah, I got to see all the projects.
Yeah, this is silly. After all, we visit, you're showing us chairs. Okay. They're beautiful chairs, though, John.
Okay, good evening. My name is John Yanacito. I'm an architect, and I'm representing Crema Cafe, the tenant located at 9 Sunnyside Terrace. We are requesting a special use permit to provide outdoor dining at the front of the existing cafe. If we look at the site plan, the highlighted area here in yellow is the proposed outdoor dining area in front of the cafe. And then we have a larger scale plan at the bottom of the page here showing the 3 tables with 12 chairs in front of the existing space. The tables will be completely located within the limits of the property line. The hours of operation will be the same as the business hours, which are Monday through Sunday from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m., and then on Fridays and Saturday evenings from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. That was the same business hours that were approved for the special use permit for the food establishment about a year ago. There'll be no music, no additional lighting, and no additional signage proposed for the dining area, and the tables and chairs will be stored inside after the operation hours. On the furniture, the tables will be square, 24 by 48, with metal bases and wood tops. And then the chairs will be wood frame with a vinyl lattice, a wicker in a gray-white finish. Thank you for your time. I'm happy to answer any questions.
So just while you look this over, just a reminder, this is an application for a special use permit. So in our zoning law, we have criteria that apply to special use permits. 12D are our general criteria, and 12H12 are the use-specific criteria. And Mr. Yanacito just went through most of the use-specific criteria, and his letter in support of this application went through them in detail.
I think I read that.
Yeah.
point by point, you make
Yeah,
comments?
each point
Yeah,
is
yeah.
on the cover letter.
Okay. So if you do that, just outside dining area, there's still adequate space for the sidewalk to pass in front, right?
Yeah, so the dining area is completely within the property line.
Right.
So if we look at this drawing here, this dashed line here represents the property line, and then there's a 4-foot sidewalk, and then also a planting bed with some grass. And right in front of each access point, there's a wider area of sidewalk that leads out to the street, and then across to the parking lot across the street. And so with the tables here, they'll be located within the limits of this one tenant space, and there's adequate space wider than the actual access door going into the cafe for pedestrian traffic. And there should be no obstruction on the sidewalk at all.
Do they take tables in at night? Is that part of the application?
Yes, you have to bring them inside.
Right.
Yep.
Okay, you have to clear the sidewalk. Got it. Okay.
Yeah, it's only 3 tables, so it shouldn't be too hard to get them inside.
Hours of operation are controlled by the special permit?
Yeah, they're the same as the special permit for the food establishment, so it's 7 a.m. to 3 p.m., 7 days a week. And then on Fridays and Saturdays, they open up for 3 hours between 6 p.m. and 9 p.m. for coffee and pastries or gelato.
Okay.
So the special use permit criteria allow you to consider and condition applications on hours of operation. In order to enforce those hours of operation, you would have to set that as a condition. So it's a question for you, if you want to limit the hours of operation to that time, we can include that as a condition, or if you're comfortable with the applicant operating generally within whatever hours the cafe is open, you wouldn't include that as a condition. But if you want the hours of operation to be specifically limited, you should include that as a condition.
So whatever you just said about hours of operation, I seem to be okay with. Keeping a cafe open till 9 o'clock doesn't seem to be a problem since there's lots of establishments in the area that are open way past that.
Yeah, and it's only 2 days a week that it's open till 9.
Monday
Rest of
through
the
Sunday,
days-
7 to 3, Friday and Saturday, 6 to 9.
Yeah, so at 3 o'clock, they close every day, but on Fridays and Saturdays, they will reopen for those 3 hours, just in the early evenings. or 6
You wouldn't
to
want to
9.
have hours during the day on the weekend.
I'm sorry?
You wouldn't want to have hours during the day on the weekend?
For the late night?
Well, for the weekend, I think the submission said 6 p.m. to 9 p.m., but nothing during the day, whereas in the week, it's 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. You wouldn't want the day hours for the
No,
weekend?
so the 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. is 7 days a week.
Oh, it's 7 days a week, okay.
Yeah, from Sunday to Monday.
Got it.
In the late hours, or just on
Monday-
the weekend?
And then
And
the
then it will
late hours are
reopen.
just Fridays and Saturdays.
Got it. So just for the condition's sake, would you want to make that break, or do you want to just allow it from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. on the weekends?
No, on weekends you're closing.
Well, they would close from between 3 and 6. No, that's, they would have a...
It's up to you guys, whatever you want.
Yeah.
What do you prefer?
You could always have less hours of
Yeah.
operations, but you couldn't have more. So I'm just wondering if you have a strong feeling about making that break during the middle of the day.
Well, I think what we're trying to say is we're prepared to give you on the 2 weekend days, Friday and Saturday, 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. You don't have to stay open the entire time. You can close for the 3 hours. But if somehow you wanted to change that and be open for that time, you're free to do so without, it's basically a freebie, right?
Yeah, the condition would be the maximum.
Yes,
So you could always
yes.
have fewer, more restrictive hours than what's proposed, but not more without
You
amending
can put
the
a posting on your door saying, 7 to 3 and 6 to 9, but if you want to change that, you don't have to come back. I guess that's the important part.
Yeah.
So that's a yes?
Oh, Dominic Montemuro, owner of Crema Cafe. Yes, so the plan was during the week, we actually have limited hours right now, so we're opening 8:30 to 3:30, just because we wanted to get the feedback from the town and, other customers that are traveling. But ultimately, we wanted to open from Monday through Thursday, 7 to 3:30 or 4:30, whatever time you had originally approved. We were going to double check with that. And then we just wanted to have that little gap time just to, recoup the staff and if we were going to have any phase outs. And that's when we would open on Friday, Saturday to 9 o'clock. And then if it was something that we had to come back to see if, staffing and just the flow of the business allowed us to run straight from 7 to 9, then we would have asked. But if you're giving the approval now, then that kind of answers our question.
So you want the flexibility to stay open for
If
those 3
possible,
hours?
yeah.
Got it. So I guess we could
Sure.
change the hours so that they
Just
stay open for
easier
those
from
3
an
hours.
enforcement standpoint.
Right. Because I imagine what you're
Yeah.
concerned about is early in the morning or late at night, midday.
That's right.
You're
No,
probably not that concerned
the
about.
3 to 6 hour or 3 to 7 is not.
I mean, you
really-
can close, but also if you don't want to close, you can do that.
Because just even now, even with some hours that we have, like I said, we're closing a little bit earlier right now, just to get the staff and work the
Yeah,
tweaks
that's
out of the
fine.
business. We actually have people that travel, from the tri-state area, not just local, that get there at 4 o'clock while we're cleaning up, and they're like, oh, we just missed you guys. So that's when my partner and I, we started thinking maybe instead of having that little gap in the middle of the day and, kind of, making people waste trips and whatnot, we'll just extend it if possible.
All right, so we'll extend the hours so you can do as you wish.
Appreciate it, thank you.
If you're not open, we're not going to get upset.
All right.
And then one other criteria that's kind of for you to evaluate is we don't have an additional parking requirement for outdoor dining. You have the ability to ask for additional spaces if you think it's needed or not if you think it's not needed. So I don't know if you want to talk to the parking situation.
No, it's not needed.
Yeah, there's a big parking lot right there, so I know it's not,
But thank you for
and
pointing
we're
that
talking about a very minimal increase in, with the outdoor seating, which is not even going to be year-round.
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I think we're good, John. We'd like your chairs.
Is there a public hearing or no?
No.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, there is. Yeah, there is.
Public hearing, yes.
I didn't realize it's getting late, so hang on. I make a motion to open the public hearing on application 2540, Crema Cafe.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Make a motion to close the public hearing on this application, Crema Cafe, 470 White Plains Road.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And then for the motion, if you wouldn't mind, I will have a kind of specific wording so that we can incorporate all the findings for the special permit without having to go through all the findings for the special use permit.
Okay.
So the motion would be to grant the requested outdoor dining special use permit for this application for the reasons explained in the applicant's written submission and for the reasons that we discuss as to hours of operation and parking, subject to the following conditions. 1, music and amplification systems and other entertainment items are prohibited in outdoor dining areas. 2, all site furniture for the outdoor dining use shall be stored inside after operating hours. 3, the proposed outdoor dining area will have 3 tables with 12 seats. No additional seats or tables can be added without modification of this approval. Our typical condition that this approval only authorizes what's shown on the plans, and that the hours of operation for the outdoor dining will be Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 3 p.m., and Saturday and Sunday, 7 a.m. to 9 p.m.
That's it. So.
Second, if that's
right,
the motion.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Great, thank you.
Good. You're good, John. Thank you.
Have a great summer.
Thank you, you too.
Thank you.
Thank you. So then, we're done. We're done with September. So I make a motion to close the Town of Eastchester Planning Board meeting of Thursday, June 26, 2025.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great, thank you.
Good.